Welcome to the movement building and leveraging session today. Please you're free to share in your chat, your name and where you're joining from and the organization. We're really glad to be here. My name is Laura Mkwana and I'll be your moderator for today. And just to go through what the session is all about. So this session aims to showcase what organizations at the grassroots, or rather organizations with grassroots reach, are doing on the ground in regards to mobilization and catalyzing action on the ground towards landscape restoration. So the general objectives of this session are, number one, we want to promote an understanding of how strong grassroots movements for landscape restoration in Kenya are built, what we need to do, like what needs to strengthen them, how do they start, how do they mobilize, how can we support them. We also want to promote understanding on their role in FLR in Kenya, what they're doing. And lastly, want to see how we can create synergies among some of these organizations. So we have basically like three different categories. We have now the faith communities, there are some other grassroots organizations, and now we will go and see, and also county governments. We want to look at what county governments are doing. So with regards to the outline of this session, we're going to start with the role of faith-based communities in land management and landscape restoration in Kenya session, which is going to take an hour. Then we'll go to the grassroots session, which will take another hour. Then lastly, we'll go to the county government session. So welcome again. Please tell us where you're joining from in the chat. Just write your name, your institution, and where you're joining us from. And welcome everyone. We're really glad to have you here. We're glad to see that we have other colleagues from outside the country as well. So welcome. So right now I'm just going to hand over to the moderators for the next session. That is Mkatha Kobia and Alan Chana to lead the faith-based session, the role of faith communities. Thank you. Over to you, Mkatha and Alan.
Thank you very much, Laura. Good morning, everybody. This is a great day. I'm very happy to be able to moderate this session this morning. Today is the fourth day of our 6-day conference on National Landscape Restoration Scaling. The session today is titled Movement Building and Leveraging. It's scheduled for 9 a.m. up to 12:30 p.m. And we have 3 sub-sessions, like Laura indicated. The first one is the faith-based, followed by the county government, by the grassroots and then the county government. I'll be moderating this first subsection on the faith-based aspect of movement building and leveraging, together with my co-host, Dr. Alan Chana. We have 1 hour before we hand over to the next session. The format for this first sub-session is that we will start with introductions of our 4 speakers, followed by their presentations, and then we will open the floor for discussion and Q&A. We want this to be interactive so that we really start the ball moving on how partnerships can be created and we can move forward with the overall agenda of this conference. Alan, welcome.
Thank you so much, Nkatha. Good morning, everybody, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, my new friends. I'm really delighted to have this opportunity to be with you, at least online. I'm a peace building and environment specialist, and in that capacity, I'm a senior fellow with one of the conference organizers. It's the Global Evergreening Alliance. And I'm also a senior advisor with the Nairobi-based organization Oiko Diplomatique. And in that, I work with my co-chair and sister Nkatha. Just to share very briefly that I've been coming back and forth to Kenya for about 30 years. Some of you will know why that is, but I find part of myself somehow in Kenya. And it's a privilege to have this opportunity to be asked to read this special message to the conference from Reverend Dr. Sam Kobia. And I first met Reverend Kobia when he was the General Secretary of the World Council of Churches in Geneva. And as you can see from the message that he sent us, this is a message for Kenya, but it's also a truly global message, a message for all citizens of the world. This is Reverend Kobia's message to our session and the whole conference. Chairperson, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, confronted with serious environmental and climate crises, we cannot help but listen to the groaning of creation, as Romans 8:22 tells us. The increasing influences of tropical storms and changing rainfall patterns, with torrential floods on the one hand and terrible droughts on the other, have become death and life issues, especially for poor people. Mitigating climate change is a deep ethical issue. The failure of the richest in this world, who are mainly responsible for greenhouse gas emissions, to intervene meaningfully in the restoration of the environment has been a source of discouragement to many. Let us pray that is now changing, and let us do all we can here in Kenya to safeguard our future. First of all, as faith and opinion leaders, let us pioneer interreligious initiatives on the ethics of change. Religions are requested not to shirk their responsibility towards the planet, on whose life our lives depend. Alliances are called for between faith and science, faith and the economy, faith and social movements on the subjects of ecology and sustainable development. Let us pioneer these together in Kenya. Environment, justice, and peace are not three separate issues. They need to be addressed together. Our world is one cloth, a seamless garment. To tear the thread of any one strand inevitably affects all of them together and shreds the whole cloth. I am pleased to be associated with this important conference to scale up the restoration of land in Kenya. Let us stand shoulder to shoulder in government, in research institutions, in civil society, and draw inspiration from our respective faiths, from our traditional wisdom, and from the discoveries of science to work for the wholeness of the land and for human wholeness, or Ubuntu. They are intimately connected. Let us work together for life in all its fullness, human life, and the life of all creation. So I wish all the delegates a successful outcome to this important conference. Thank you. From Reverend Dr. Sam Kobia. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan. Thank you very much for that wonderful contribution. That's very poignant message that starts us off. And really the key point I would pick from that is that we are being called to work together, interfaith, not separate. We need to form alliances between faith and science, faith and economy, and faith and all other aspects of our communities. I'd like to now have our first speaker, Irene Ojuo. She is a specialist in creating and forming partnerships in the area of land restoration. I'd like her to tell us more about her work and the areas which she feels people can really come together and create such alliances. Irene, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nkata. I am not a religious leader, but I'm speaking from a faithful perspective. So I am a faithful in a church. I'm equally a technocrat in matters restoration, and I'm very also passionate about this conversation around land restoration. So I want to share with us some opportunities I see the religious leaders have in terms of helping address this big problem we are having as a country and as a globe. Now, one of the things that has been discussed since this conference began is about the issue on mindset change. And one of the biggest barriers, one of the farmers actually say that the biggest beast of restoration is our mindsets, our attitudes. Our hearts are not transformed to be able to translate our actions to restoration. The religious institutions or the religious bodies have a very central and pivotal role in working around changing this, because it is in the church, it is in the mosques, it's in the, the spaces where we deal with spiritual matters, that the minds can actually be changed. We can actually find space to make faithfuls understand our divine role in addressing the land restoration issue. For example, in our Christian perspective, we were given a responsibility from the Garden of Eden to take care of the earth. What exactly are we doing? We need to find an opportunity where our church leaders can actually preach environmental stewardship in a more passionate way, in a more strategic way, so that even as science and development is trying to push for scaling up land restoration, it is not something separate from what the spiritual matters speak. So that is one thing I think the religious leaders can really measure on or support, especially in matters land restoration. Number two, I also see a lot of opportunities in the structures and programs in the church. The church, the mosques, the Muslim, our Muslim brothers and sisters and the Christians and the Hindus and all these other religions, they have very, very organized systems, structures, and programs where they help, nurture faithfuls to be more responsive. And when I talk about responsive, I want to move exactly into the environmental space. And I will give an example. I see a lot of children programs where, children are trained to, learn more about, spiritual matters. Some churches have gone ahead to take children for hikes, taking children for, boat riding, giving them a sense of connecting with nature. Now, these are very great opportunities to bring up children in a way that they will be able to appreciate environmental matters at a tender age, because once they understand this at the young age, when they grow up, they will not depart from it. There's a very great opportunity in the youth programs in the church. Churches have study guides, the spiritual books. These books can be actually used to communicate the power of environmental stewardship and the influence upon which, if we use the Bible, if we use the Quran to communicate or to ensure that the faithfuls get to appreciate their central role in addressing this issue, it will no longer be the big problem of development agencies or science. So let us use the structures. The church has even education institutions. What is the stand of the church as far as environmental stewardship is concerned? If they were able to ensure that even in their schools, they train up the students in a way that they go into the society better stewards. The church has colleges, the church have universities, the church has, hospitals. There are very many well-organized systems, structures, and programs that the religious bodies could use to infuse the environmental stewardship message in a way that ensures that the people who come out of this are better citizens of this world and are more advocates for restoration and climate change issues. The other thing I want to talk about is the cultural barriers. So we discussed gender issues that are really barring uptake of restoration. We discussed issues around peace and conflict. So there are many problems that bar restoration activities from going on, especially in the ASAL regions, where continuously we hear war, we see people killing each other because of desire to utilize the limited resources we have. The question is, how best have development agencies, how best has government exploited the role of the faith-based institutions to be mediators, to be the people who are able to ensure that they create peace? Because all these people who fight each other, for some reason, they are answerable to some supreme or divine, being. And this is actually within the institution of the faith. How best have we utilized these spaces? How best have we utilized these important institutions to be able to use their power, their influence, to create peace, and peace in a sustainable way to that effect? It's very important to invest in the church. It's very important to invest in empowering the faith-based institutions to understand their role. Because sometimes I feel that the institutions, the faith-based institutions, assume that certain issues are more the role of government and development agencies, and maybe their work may only be into, the spiritual matters around, not doing sin. But I think we need to redefine sin in a way that can also connect with our responsibility to take care of what God gave to us. I want to also talk about where science, faith, and development meet. Now, the whole conference, since it began, I'm very sure that if we did an analysis, 3/4 of the participants since we began may not have been really the faith leaders. Maybe the majority would be faithfuls who don't have very significant level of influence when it comes to decisions around how to integrate maybe matters on environment and climate change in the church. So you find most of the time where matters climate change, where matters environment are being discussed, there are more of technocrats discussing these matters alone, and you don't find really the church as very integral. We discuss a lot about exclusion, and we say women are excluded, youth are excluded, but it's high time we consider the faith-based, network or systems as central and as vital or as important as including women and youth, because they have a very significant role in ensuring that the transformations, the transformations of the heart, the action on the ground, the many churches we have can actually be the demonstration sites for what works in terms of adaptation, mitigation, and application of the land restoration questions. So there needs to be very connected, networks between science, development agencies, private sector, and the faith people to have a conversation. And we need to ask ourselves, as maybe the technocrats or scientists, are we communicating restoration in a way that it's not understandable? And what could be really the main barriers that do not make it easy for the faith-based institutions to be part of the restoration discussions? There's one initiative by the UN, which is dubbed Faith for Earth initiative, which was initiated, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. It was a very good platform that brought on board different faith leaders together to discuss matters of environment, climate change, and how the church plays a central role and what needs to be done. The only unfortunate thing is sustaining this kind of engagement. So they start 1 meeting, 2 meetings, and they're gone. Who exactly is going to take up the mantle to bring together these entities in a more sustained engagement so that they play their pivotal role in scaling up the land restoration question? Partnerships on the ground. We have development agencies working with the churches on the ground, but if we do not strengthen these partnerships and scale them, cascade them to the top level, we are not going to have effective land restoration. We have seen very good examples, like the Catholic Church. They have taken a stand, and they're able to communicate and say, now this is our stand as far as climate change. I challenge other faith institutions to also take a stand, and beyond going into the stance or taking the stance, we want to see action. So if we are saying that as a church or as the Muslim faith, we believe and we want to go in this direction, how is this cascaded to the ground? So there's very important need for the faith-based institutions to support science, to support development, and this can only happen when they work together. So working together, no exclusion, because if we go alone with all these conversations without bringing in the church, I think the investments will go into the drains because the hearts will never be reached, they'll never be transformed, and we'll never have a generation that will embrace restoration, not because it is only said by others, but it's because it's our divine responsibility. Thank you, Nkata.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Irene. Thank you for that wonderful and insightful presentation. These points are very important and they will feed into what we will contribute at the last session on Friday, which will really be action points that can be taken forward so that really the momentum is not lost and actions come out of this conference and that we actually see a restoration of the landscape in Kenya. So just quickly to highlight some of the main things that she has pointed out was to highlight the mindset change and attitudes. That's where it starts. And this can happen in the faith-based spaces because this is where most of the people find themselves in, whatever their denomination. If they are Muslim, Christian, Indigenous, Hindu, they belong to one faith or another, and they can be reached, therefore, by these faith institutions. She also encouraged us and all other sectors of the community to really focus also on empowering the faith community. If they're empowered, they can do more and better. And very importantly also is she identified a nexus between faith, science, and development. And we need to identify in these points of partnership and connection. Thanks so much for that, Irene. That was a powerful presentation. Really glad that you could join us this morning and give your contributions. Next, I will call on Calvin Mugambi. He will be followed by Father Charles, and thereafter, Dr. Hassan Kinwa. If Hassan Kinwa has not joined yet, we may find a representative within the, among the participants. So Calvin, I'll hand over to you now. Please tell us about yourself, your work, and your organization, and then the interfaith perspective as far as landscape restoration goes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nkatha, and everyone for this opportunity. My name is Calvin Mugambi, and I work for ADRA, that's the Adventist Development and Relief Agency. And quite a lot has been shared by Irene, and mine is to put the perspective into ground. And as ADRA, as an organization that is a development agency of the Adventist, we've actually taken a number of activities towards land restoration in different parts of the country, and more so in the ASALs in the ASALs counties of Lower Eastern as well as the Northeastern. And more importantly, for me, I see opportunities that lie. So more to it, I look at then how can faith or rather religious leaders take up the opportunity to spread the gospel around land restoration. And as Irene has mentioned, most of the times that for instance, working with the ADRA, we are a development arm of the Seventh Adventist Church. And, we are looked as the technocrats when it comes to matter restoration. But in reality, within the church lies, so much opportunity to actually expound these activities that we run at the field level, and so we see ourselves more as agents of change, or rather you want to put us extension agents, and the church being the biggest institution that can promote or rather can accelerate these interventions at a higher scale. Looking at an example then is how best can we engage the faith communities, and I see an opportunity where then we need to consider faith leaders as part of the key stakeholders, because most of the times that we look at the county government, we look at other partners, and we rarely look at or have a key concern to the faith leaders. So I'm looking at an example of a single church at your local community. The smallest unit could have probably at a minimum of 50 congregants. So what then does it mean when we are able to reach at these 50 congregants with able to change their mindset to restoration, and having each of them then having at a minimum of say 5 trees to their to their lands? Because we're talking of land restoration, and not that we have this big acreage degraded land somewhere either owned by the government that we all aim to restore, but rather it is the lands that are owned by these congregants. So when you look at 50 congregants at minimum, and the religious leader is able to convince them rather, each of them to actually adopt 5 trees, we're looking at 250 trees for that particular congregation. So imagine then within that small locality, we have probably 10 churches at max, at a minimum. So looking at 250 trees by 10 churches, we're looking at 2,500 trees within that particular locality. So you can imagine the kind of magnitude that then the religion, or rather the religious leaders, can have when it comes to land restoration. And as Irene, my colleague, has mentioned, then there's no better place to put action than on the grassroots, where climate change hit the most. And then, us coming up with programs that connect the congregation to nature is more of importance. And I see that within the Adventist, where, the Sunday school, children are exposed to, matters relating nature. And, so those are some of the opportunities that, as I've been mentioned by Irene, that exist. And whether it's about how we package the information, or whether it's that climate related issues is more technical for the religious leaders, I really am not very sure about that, because we recently had a project in Mandera, where the largest part of the community is from the Muslims. And it's been almost 10 years of really impactful land restoration activities. And I remember first time we walk into Mandera, and they were a bit skeptical, because the notion was that we were carrying out evangelism and we were coming to convert them to Christianity. But after a series of meetings and discussions with the religious leaders, with the local elders, we came to an understanding, or rather came to an understanding of our intention. And it's been quite amazing to see how rangelands have been rehabilitated, how we've seen madrasas at the lowest kind of Sunday school for the Muslim, how they have adopted, interventions such as kitchen garden for nutrition. So I think how then we package our activities as development leaders at the grassroots level really matters. And the religious leaders are a critical part, a key ingredient then to actually, propel this agenda of land restoration, and actually to put it into action. Because, even looking at the highest technocrat you can imagine, Alan, you also attend a church service. You're a congregant to that. So, I mean, that means a lot when it comes to then having this, church leader, being in the same page, because these beneficiaries we're working with, at the end of the day, will have to go to church. So, I mean, let it be a continuous process of restoration that actually does not seclude, the religion or the religious communities, because they hold the key to, successful intervention. So thank you very much, Father. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Kelvin, and for sharing your direct experience of working with faith-based communities, Muslims and Christians, and seeing the restoration that flows from that, and also kind of buttressing and strengthening Irene's point about, so there you are, she was saying we have these technical agencies that are inspired and connected with faith organizations, and yet the core of our faith organizations, how are we really working with them to inspire deeper and further change? So I think this session is really flowing very nicely, because now we can move on to our real faith leader that we have amongst us, who can really speak from the heart of from a church, and from the Catholic Church, of course, with its huge reach and potential. So, Nkatha, back to you.
Thank you, Alan. Thanks for your contributions, Kelvin. And we will now hear from Father Charles. Father Charles, please introduce yourself and your organization and the work you've done. And we look forward to hearing really what interfaith perspective you can give us.
Okay, thank you very much, Nkatha. I'm Father Charles Odira. I am actually a Catholic priest. I'm also a lecturer at the Catholic university, that is specifically Tangaza University College. I'm also a parish priest in the Catholic Church. I have a church of mine in Homa Bay. And with this regard, I'm also a member and the chair of one network, Kenya Interfaith Network of Action for Environment. About the topic, and I've seen the speakers, those who have shared in this topic, have shared very well, beginning even from the message of Reverend Kobia, and also from Irene and my other friend. And one thing has come out that religion is something that we cannot wish away, especially in the society when we want to address certain issues. One writer called Biti, he died. He was an anthropologist, religious anthropologist. He wrote, Africans are notoriously religious, and religion permeates into all aspects of their lives. In other words, there is nothing that an African does that has no religious connotation. This includes eating, working, farming, anything. Which means that we are, whatever we do is a kind of religious expression. So parting from that, we see that as a strength in the participation of religious communities in restoration. We only need, therefore, to make restoration be relevant to our faith. We have to highlight it. We have to see where this belongs. Like Irene said, that even when we use our scriptures, the Bible that we use, our teachings in the church, in the mosques and everything, there is always relevance, because one thing is clear in the religious field, that God created the universe and we are just stewards. So in the aspect of that stewardship alone is very important in the teaching of the church, in the teaching of other religions, because we know we are just using this world not because it is our own, not because we created it, but because we've just borrowed it, not just only from the future generation, but above all, we have been given by God to use it responsibly. So stewardship is something that is coming out very clear in the area of religion. So I think religion should just be seen not as an object, but as a partner in this. You know, many times this is just a joke outside what we are talking about. Where I come from now, when the corona comes, the first places to close are the churches. The places to leave running are the bars and the other places and the marketplaces. So church is seen as a threat and not a partner in fighting the corona. And that sounds very funny to me, because it's a contradiction. And I think in this area of restoration, if the church, if religion can be seen as a partner in furthering this, in promoting restoration, it becomes easy. And with religions, it is very easy. It is not a matter of so much programmatic approach, but spontaneous. For example, in our churches, we do a lot of things. Personally, I told you I'm also a parish priest somewhere. I have a youth group that I've named GYM, Green Youth Mentorship Program. And it has to do with the issues of environment. So giving them that name GYM entices them to join it. I intentionally looked for words that can be abbreviated as GYM. So they all want to belong to GYM, but once they are there, then I engage them in the issues of environmental stewardship. And they like it. They do issues of agriculture, they plant trees, and they do all sorts of things. And I want to encourage them more. Apart from that, also, I wrote some books. One of them was about for the Sunday school, the small children, to read about environment, but in relation to our faith. So from a faith perspective, how God created the world and the responsibility that he has given. So children who use this book, and these books are now used in many places. I've launched it in some other countries as well. And also I did one for the people who are older enough, the young people, and also for the university level. So these books are also good in the sense that they come through the church. And now if it comes through the church, then they see it is something authentic that is worth following. They feel safe because it goes through all that processes. And above all, with also the Laudato Si that I think by now many people know about, the Pope's letter to the church and to the people of goodwill about the care of our common home. This has inspired the Catholic world so much. Many groups have been started and programs to respond to this Pope's call. And even as I speak, the 9 countries of Eastern Africa are prioritizing environmental conservation from this year going forward on the basis of the invitation by Pope Francis to care for the common home. So I see there is a lot of opportunity in the religion and in the church based on what personally I'm doing in the parish where I am with the people on the ground, and they begin to appreciate it. They appreciate it more because they say, if our priest is doing this, it must be a good thing. And I am thinking if all religious leaders could be given the right capacity and be influenced into this, and they own it. You read the Bible from the beginning to the end, it's all about the creation of God. Everything is linked from the Old Testament, which begins with the creation of the world, to the New Testament that sees it as a fulfillment in God's salvation. So religions are not just like invited to participate in environmental conservation. We are actually partners. And as Irene pointed out, in terms of numbers, everyone belongs to something. Everyone believes in something, or majority of the inhabitants of the world believe in are members of a certain religion. And even Africans who have not accepted the foreign religions like Christianity, Islam, they still belong to the African traditional religion. So in looking at it from all those angles, using religion as a way of reaching out to the people and promoting or delivering the message of conservation and restoration, it becomes obvious that it's going to be very easy. The structures are sustainable. Leadership, the system is flowing. If something comes from the Pope, for example, in the Catholic Church, it goes down to the grassroots. And then for us, what we need most is now the implementation. A lot is going about in the religious circles, but the problem is maybe they are not recorded, they are not, there is nowhere where these are put down to say, for example, that the Catholic Church has planted 1 million trees. So they are kind of scattered information. That is where maybe the program comes in. Is it possible that the scientists and the development partners can work together with the religion or the religions so that at least we combine effort and we give religions the support, the technical support that they do not have, so that the implementation becomes something which is possible. I see that is where we need that intervention. On the question of even attitude, for example, attitude change is important because that is what is killing even our young people today. Some of them, like during this COVID, I saw some young people who came up with very brilliant ideas, especially in my place, that I told them, why can't we embark on, for example, making tree seedlings, and then you sell to the people, you get money. In the process, you are also conserving. Or why can't you do something? So they came out doing something. But others who are lazy waiting for the lockdown to be open, now they are very frustrated. So if we are able to change the people's attitude that they can always even focus on green economy, so that they invest in that can also work. And through the church, we have these groups like youth, we have other groups like women, we have other groups like men, we have all sorts of associations and groups. If we target them and we are following them and we give them the capacity that is required, I think a lot can change within a very short time in a very big place. So I am very happy that eCraft and the other groups are considering and have been working very closely with faith organizations. And this one is going to bring a big result because there is no dichotomy. We are not fighting science and faith. I think we can complement each other. Where science is too strong, we can consult faith, isn't it? So after all, we believe, I know even the scientists believe, that God created also the scientists plus the brain that they have. So it is still the same creation of God. I call upon all of us to work together and to join hands and to focus on our own ways. It is not enough to invite faith, but also to allow them to use their own tradition, their own scripture, their own teaching, what they believe in, to discover how the best approach to have towards restoration. Because if we use a scientific approach and apply it to faith organizations, it becomes difficult because faith leaders are not scientists. We are more of emotion. We are more of feeling. So if we can be allowed to do it our own way and be supported as we also support the scientists and conservationists, then I think we are going to complement each other and we shall be partners. I won't stop there, and I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Father Charles, for your powerful presentation. These are great points that we should take on board, think about, contemplate, and implement. Some of the key points that you have highlighted was to emphasize that faith communities have a key role to play based on the tenets of their faith, whether they're Muslims or Christians or Hindus or even indigenous faiths. An important gap that you identified is the equipping of faith organizations and leaders with the technical capacity to carry out the mandate of restoration of the environment. And also you said that it's very important that groups and associations within the faith institutions can work together and carry out such projects and programs to achieve this overall goal. Thank you so much. These are great points. This is what we need to carry forward, and we're going to highlight these and emphasize them again at the final session on Friday. At this time, I would like to ask Alan to highlight a few questions that we might have from the Q&A, and let's answer a few of those questions before coming back to a Muslim speaker, if he will have joined us by then. Alan?
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm really struck by both what the panelists have been saying, echoed in some of the questions, which is then, and I think probably the question would go back to Irene and to Kelvin. How do you then feel that this request, this need to build capacity amongst faith leaders, amongst religious communities in restoration, and in restoration more than the advocacy, because like going back to the constraints to restoration, which were outlined at the beginning of this conference, things like access to land or conflicts and misunderstandings over whose land it is, and incentives and value chain possibilities that pastors in their communities could be aware of and encourage. Like Father Charles has founded this gym. I mean, what a brilliant acronym. What an inspiring, you know, how can we, other faith organizations just get that click? Oh, we could do a kind of a gym. We could do, how do we start to mobilize such kind of activities? So I think we'd all be, Irene and Kelvin, with your experiences, both of restoration and working with faith communities, how can you encourage us on that road?
Maybe I go first. I know Kelvin is on the ground and he can share more. So just taking it on from what Father Charles has powerfully shared, we have to stop treating faith-based institutions like participants, but partners in this business. So, and Kelvin said it very well, they are key stakeholders. And when they are key stakeholders, we have to give them their space to translate or to implement and action what we are jointly working on together, so that we stop looking at the development challenges in a perspective that makes it our own problem, but a joint problem. So one thing I would want to say is we have to move beyond space of, you know, when you want to engage the church, it's like you're working so hard to bring them on board when you're working on the ground. So faith-based institutions must be central in our designs, in our plans, in our implementation, and in our tracking of progress someone mentioned in the chat, we are missing, the contribution of the church. Why? It's because we never ask, we never follow, we never, we never give the capacity. And Father Charles has said it very well. They need capacity building. And when we capacity build them, we must allow them to interpret this in their divine understanding in a way that it will be understood by the congregants. I would just say that, but I'm really grateful for the insights from Father Charles.
Thank you, Irene, and thank you very much, Father Charles. Also, just to add is that the Adventists also have a clear position on the environment. And, looking at the concern, I just saw also a post, one participant asking, how did we manage then to pull through the Muslim community? But then just to go through, straight to it is that, just as Father Charles has mentioned, is that during our intervention, we did not look at the religious leaders of that particular community aside from our intervention, but rather they were stakeholders and partners. So what key issues that we addressed with the beneficiaries, they were all part of this. They all were part of the trainings, because we figured that they also needed to actually have a feel and get to understand really what all these land restoration and climate change issues were. Because yes, they have always come out vocally when it comes to advocacy, but we felt that then we needed then also equip them with the technologies as well as the skills, because this is not to mention that they also are victims of climate change. They also have families who fall victims of this climate change impact. So it was more of carrying them not just alongside with us, but hand to hand.
I think this question of the gap still needs to be addressed. In the minutes that we've got left now, I mean, it's very striking, and I think as Father Charles congratulated the organizers of the conference, I just feel I'd like to buttress that, because these are the ICRAFs, the technical, the government organizations, the KEFRIs have reached out to the faith communities, but these host organizations of this conference don't have the expertise to make faith organizations central integrated partners, like Father Charles has said, but nor do the Catholic Church and the Seventh-day Adventists are not going to, or don't have, they're focused on their congregations and so forth, to actually reach out and say, how do we really connect with the ICRAFs and the KEFRIs is not like a central objective. But so I'm just seeing how, as a result of our meeting today, we can fill that gap. That there's somebody who's nurturing, as Irene was the first to flag this. Where is that entity that's going to nurture, that will cement, that will do the bridge, that will build the bridge and make it a strong one? Because I think both sides of the river now have waved at each other and said we need to be actually on the same side. But if we don't actually now come out of this and build the bridge, we could still be next year just kind of waving, not really doing the integration which we recognized. So I'm just throwing that out as any amongst, maybe in Katha or Laura or Mika, as a kind of outcome of this session, how we take that forward.
Thank you, Alan. That's correct. And I think also an important aspect, something else we need to mention, is that we do consider all faith groups to be very relevant in this. We would love to have on board the Hindus and even the indigenous faith communities that are there. They have a lot that they can contribute, and we can learn a lot from them. So we do plan to get them on board as well and get their contributions and create partnerships with them as well. If there is somebody in the audience who would like to raise their hand, we can give you a couple of minutes to give a contribution.
My name is Zivai. I just wanted to weigh in on the way in which faith groups can become mobilizers for communities to also engage in environmental issues. You see, the beauty about faith communities is that they are based in communities where there could be mixed groups. But the one of the things that we've been doing in Southern Africa is we work. I'm from ADRA. We are working with youths and children, and these are youths and children in schools, in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and in other church communities surrounding. So because we are working with them, and we focus on our community and the common value that we place around natural resources, around the environment, and then they adopt specific activities that they can do with support and sponsorship from their different groups. Even those who are not affiliated to any faith group, if they're a member of the community, they can also partake. So let us also view faith communities as key mobilizers of communities, and also as key center points for any advocacy and lobbying related activities, because they are grassroots and they already form and they have organized the civil society groups. So we capitalize on that. And we have actually noticed that since we started doing that, because we started doing this as a way to build the resilience of the young people to negative issues surrounding them. So they've not only started building their own resilience, but they have also contributed, and they are contributing to their communities. So right now, as we speak, hectares of tree planting has been done, gullies are being reclaimed and others. And this can be done at any level. Even the younger ones in preschool are engaged in learning at their own level. So it's not limited in that way. And then my last quick point is that I do not know in Kenya, but I'm Zimbabwean, and I know that there are things in our cultural practices that were centered around protecting the environment. I think we need to invest energy in understanding indigenous knowledge, indigenous cultural practices, and how these used to contribute to environmental protection. And from that, we can actually revive some of these value systems that have been overtaken by different structures for managing and governing communities. Thank you.
Thank you. That's excellent to hear. Thank you so much, Zai. He has emphasized that really we actually don't need to exclude anyone, even if they don't belong to a particular faith community. They are within the community, and these faith organizations work within the communities, so they can reach everybody. Thank you so much for your contributions, Zai. We have only 1 minute left. And so I just want to thank everybody for attending this session. After this, we have the grassroots session, which will be followed by the county government session. I will hand over to the moderators for that. And I want to assure everyone that the comments in the chat are visible to us. We hear them and we value them. We will take the points that you have raised, and we will come up with some concrete plans that can really be put into action. So thank you again once, everybody. I now hand over to Laura and the other moderators. Thank you.
So great. So right now we're going to watch a short video.
Farm exchange visit is one approach of learning and sharing information and practices among farmers, an opportunity that transforms the mindset of a given individual for a cause.
Our visit to Kerio Valley, an area that was adversely affected by drought, the land was typically bare, with dotted shrubs which were evidently visible. This profiled an interclan clash for pasture and water amongst the Koiyo, Marakwet and Tugen community. The prolonged drought rendered a total loss of livestock as their main source of livelihood in this community. This valley was hit by hunger until the government of Kenya called for humanitarian support to salvage the situation.
In the process of reconciliating interclashes,
African Inland Church was established at Cheptebo village. The missionary found it difficult to preach to hungry population as famine persisted. This forced the church to pipe water 4 kilometers from Kerio waterfall uphill to the church at Cheptebo village. They began with the establishment of the tree nursery in 202 and now become one of the major tree nurseries composed of grafted mangoes and other fruit trees. In order to ensure total ownership of the initiative, the missionary hires casuals on a daily basis from the community to participate in potting, husking of mangoes, breaking out, and other tree nursery management activities. This provided an opportunity for an on-job training on environmental protection and conservation, which they later practice back at their respective homes as seedlings are disposed to the community at a subsidized price. 18 years down the line, an increase in forest cover is evidently visible, full of indigenous tree species similar to Lambwe Valley, as mango tree not only form canopy to mitigate climate change, but also has drastically improved socio-economic development as youth and women dispose bumper harvest along the road and bus stop to passengers along Iten Kabarnet Highway in Elgeyo Marakwet County. As the level of mango production increases year in, year out, the church, through its network, received a donation of fruit value addition plant from the Japan government worth 21 million shillings that peels and dries mangoes fruit for export. This value addition plant provides employment opportunities for youth as well as improving socio-economic development in Elgeyo Marakwet County. Is this something worth replicating in Lambwe Valley? A question that the Greening Lambwe Initiative is figuring out in order to lay down strategies to ensure a sustainable environmental protection and conservation in the community. Simple arithmetic. One mango tree produces 300 to 400 in 7 years. One fruit goes for 20 shillings, an average production, that's around 400 fruits. 400 fruits multiplied by 20 shillings, you get 8,000 shillings per plant per season. Suppose you plant 40 grafted mango trees, 8,000, you get 320,000 shillings. Indeed, mango can really transform the society.
Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you for the previous session. I think it raised a lot of ideas, a lot in the chat, a lot of suggestions on how we can build this. And so if you had your hand up before and you didn't get to add, please keep adding to the chat. It'll be fantastic to hear really concrete steps on how we move forward and ensuring that faith-based communities are included in this environment. And I'm very happy to moderate the next session. And the next session of this whole theme is focused on grassroots mobilization and a number of different approaches that are used for grassroots mobilization. Now, we recognize that there are many different approaches that are used in many different places. So we're just going to highlight a few today. We're going to start off looking at community forest associations. We're then going to look at how working with youth and schools through wildlife clubs has had benefit. Then we're going to have a lesson from our neighbors in Uganda on land care and how that could be applied more widely in Kenya. We're going to hear, I hope, if he's online, from the Kenya Small Scale Farmers Association, and then from Charles Odhiambo from Regreening Africa, and a number of the community will present on different approaches that are used within the program. Throughout this, please continue to use the chat. We will try and get to some questions at the end, but please use the chat a lot, and also think as we go through, what more do we need to do to support community grassroots movements and actions, and how do we take this forward? So I would now like to welcome Peter Wandera, who is the chairman of, working for the National Alliance of Community Forest Associations in Kenya. Peter, over to you.
Thank you, Moderator Uchien. I'm happy to be with you today. I'm standing in for the Secretary of NACOFA, who was supposed to be here, Gerald Ngatia, but due to some involvement into other issues, he was not able to join you today. And me, I'm Peter Wandera, the chairman of NACOFA. I've longed to attend these meetings for some quiet years back, but due to some issues which were not allowing me to participate, I've never participated in this project, but this is the first time I've been with you today. I'm happy to be with you today. I also sometimes I was working for the Kenya Forest Service Board as the vice chair of the board. I think that is what have caused me not to be with you all those other years. But allow me today, since I'm only presenting whatever was supposed to be represented by Ngatia, I will just go direct to the points that he was to present over to you today. As you read, it is the community involvement in forest land restoration. Communities world over, not just in Kenya, play a vital role in protection and sustainable management of forests. Protection and sustainable management of forests was a cultural practice that has been in practice over the years by many ethnic groups in this country. However, this tradition has been eroded through the years by economic resources extended on our forests through the years. Then more. Community Forest Associations, CFS, involvement in forest land restoration. Forest laws in Kenya have recognized communities as important stakeholders in protection and sustainable management of forests. There are over 300 registered CFAs in Kenya today, many operating gazetted forest blocks and other communities and county forests. The CFS bring together communities living adjacent to forests in implementation, legal, and well-coordinated forest utilization, protection, rehabilitation programs. Kenya Forest Service, KFS, on the ground provide guidance and technical support to the CFA members. National Alliance of Community Forest Association, NACOFA, is the network that brings together all CFS in the country and is the nation voice and linkage both to the government and forest partners on matters of policy and community issues. As you can see on the photo there, the communities and Kenya Forest collaborating as one partner. CFS now on that side, loading and indigenous trees and seedlings on Kenya Forest Service vehicle in South Kinangop, that is in Aberdare, where plantation on a degraded forest site in May 2021. This was done this year. As you can see, over 120,000 mixed indigenous trees seeds planted on 3 CFA this year in 3 forest stations Aberdare, that is Geita, South and North Kinangop, with the facilitation by WWF and NACOFA. Community members on Mombasa, you can see, we are working nationwide because now you have seen that is in Aberdare, and the other one now we are closing to Mombasa now, that is coastal region. Communities members of Mombasa Kilindini CFA rehabilitating a mangrove forest with support from Kenya National Highway Authority, that is KENHA. Some other communities in the coast region are earning carbon credits from their efforts in restoration of mangrove forest, Mikogodo Pamoja project in Kwale. You can see that is a project that at least brings the money. Community efforts in tree seedlings production, millions of seedlings raised in CFS and Rua tree nurseries and other private tree nurseries, some on road sites. Nearly all CFS in the country have tree nurseries that produce wide range of mixed indigenous tree seedlings for forest land rehabilitation programs, exotic tree seedlings for plantation development, fruits trees, and bamboo seedlings for an on-farm and riparian areas planting. Tree seedlings production capacity ranging from 20,000 to over 500,000 annually per CFA, depending on capacity to fundraise on attract partnership on each particular CFA. All these efforts have assisted in increasing tree cover in the country. Kabaru CFA in Nyeri is in collaboration with the Kenya Forest Service. You can see that is their nursery recently, as at July 2021, has a stock of 632 tree seedlings in their tree nursery ready for planting this year. The only major challenge being limited market seedlings, which at times overgrow in these tree nurseries and grow to waste, thus motivation the communities. The situation in the communities. What needs to be done to achieve great heights in the forest and land restoration? First and foremost is recognition of communities and the lowest level as the answer to the environmental question, not just in Kenya, but world over. Put in place legal frameworks that are community friendly and that addresses day-to-day community livelihood needs. Involve and respect community views when designing and implementing any project or policy. I think this is very key because you cannot just go on the ground and start involving something without involving the communities. So you have to involve them in order for them to accept it and then adapt it for the easy work of the environment. Little environment research programs not just be in books, but be brought down for implementation at the community level. You see, in Kenya here, some people say that when you want to hide something for Kenyans, you put it on books. Very few people maybe read the books, but you see on the ground, when you bring such information on the ground, it will be very easy and then it will be adopted by so many. Funding for forest land rehabilitation programs would bear faster fruits and positive impacts when communities are the direct implementers of such projects. The government and development partners to work with community through already existing structures in area of interest, such as CFS and RUAs. We are a national umbrella. The board of NACOFA is entirely across all the conservancies, 10 of them, and we work regardless of religious benefits as well, because we have the Muslims with us, we have the Catholics. So NACOFA has at least a stake on all people involved in this. And that is why we have succeeded as NACOFA, bringing communities together to work. And you see, the key important thing that at least we need to do in order to do the restoration of this area, we need at least to ensure that whatever trees we plant, we don't just plant, but we do the tree growing. Actually, this is where we have messed up, because you can find an organization saying that we have planted this year 20 million or 3 million. But when we visit that place again next year, you find there is nothing on the ground. So we should give our energy on monitoring to ensure that at least whatever we have planted has at least grown, so that at least when we say, we talk of this year planting 20 million or 10 million, and then we plant next year also 5,000 or so, then we have a figure that at least is seen on the ground. The signage has just to be seen, not something that is seen on books. This is where we fail now. And we see we have so many capacity buildings on the ground, capacity building meetings on big hotels, but actually on the ground, possibly there is nothing is happening. So it is actually my view to ensure that at least we can reduce these big meetings in hotels, on big hotels, and then ensure that we land on the ground, because this is where all our efforts should at least be seen. And also when we do the land reclamation, we are not doing it in the hotel because we are doing on the land. We have to sit on this land, talk to the communities, talk to religious benefits, talk to whoever is on the ground. And I'm sure in Kenya here, there is nobody who doesn't know how to plant a tree. Everybody knows how to plant a tree. So it is only a question of now having motives, like when we have the challenges of maybe seedlings overgrowing in the nurseries, and we don't have money maybe to purchase them, to take them where the degraded areas are. So if we build our capacity and ensure that we look for these seedlings that at least are overgrowing in these nurseries, we buy them, take them to where the degradation has taken place, we plant them. The other thing is also on the donors. Actually, they bring in the money when actually they don't go by the time of the correct time of planting. You can see now we plant in the month of June, when actually we don't have enough rain, and we could have planted maybe in the month of March to April. And since we didn't have that allocation of money, the money comes in after at least the time of rain has expired. This one also is a derail in making us sure attain what we are supposed to get. And I congratulate all the other speakers that have brought on this issue. And we as NACOFA, we are in support, and we shall collaborate, we shall work with anybody who is like-minded to ensure that at least we do the needful for land reclamation in this republic of ours. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Peter. That was really, really insightful. And thank you for not only sharing the approach that is the community forest associations, but also your insights on where we should be looking. So a few things that came out is really focusing our programming around tree growing and an emphasis on tree growing, not just planting. really putting our emphasis on the ground and making sure that the community are not only involved in the design, but that the implementation goes to the ground level, less meetings in hotel rooms and more action on the ground. And as you mentioned, let's grow trees, not just plant them. So thank you so much. And if Peter needs to leave in the next half an hour, please put any questions for him in the chat, and I hope he can respond to them there. So Winnie, you can share the screen again. I would now like to introduce George Ngagi from Wildlife Clubs of Kenya to give us some insights on how this approach of working through the wildlife clubs and the schools and the youth in promoting restoration. Please, George, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm George, as it has been said, from Wildlife Clubs of Kenya. And I'm here to present what WCK, or Wildlife Clubs of Kenya, has been doing in mobilization and leveraging. I will present very, very briefly about the background of Wildlife Clubs of Kenya. And Wildlife Clubs of Kenya is a charitable conservation education organization. This was registered many years back and under the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife, and it is supported by the government. Wildlife Clubs of Kenya was started back in 1968, and one unique thing about Wildlife Clubs of Kenya is that it was started by students. So it is a student engineered organization, 12 students from Kagumo High School, that is somewhere in the central part of this country. And what happened is that these students, as they went through their school, they discovered that within the school there are quite a number of clubs, drama club, music club, and these clubs used to move around, visit places, and they had an interest of visiting our protected areas, national parks and reserves. And what they did, they approached one of their teachers then, and they requested if they could also start a group so that they can be able to visit these areas. And one thing that happened and followed thereafter was that the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife then was really glad to take up the initiative together with the students, and they were awarded the first trip to Mount Kenya National Park. And therefore, the vision of this great organization is proactive society in wildlife and environmental conservation. And the mission is enhancing wildlife and environmental conservation for posterity. And one unique thing about Wildlife Clubs of Kenya, as I said, it is an organization that was started by students. So it has more or less, if I may say, become a great movement that definitely is out there to educate all students in Kenya, in all learning institutions about wildlife conservation, about restoration, and particularly a number of activities that I will share with you going forward. You realize that all these hands-on activities, they are geared to taking care of our environment, restoring nature back to its original form, and also educating people. Because at the end of the day, one thing that we need to understand is that education is key to conservation. Once we empower our people, once we let them understand why we are planting trees, why we are keeping our environment clean, then it becomes part of them. And the generations that follows thereafter definitely will take up that as part of their life. Our objectives, we have 3 of them. One is to spread interest and knowledge about wildlife and environmental conservation among the youth of Kenya and East Africa in particular. We are interested in the youth. We believe that the youth has the energy, they have the innovation to make sure that they conserve and take care of our environment as should be. Number 2 is to increase awareness on the great economic, cultural, and aesthetic value of natural resources. And this cuts across the students and also the community to make sure that even our community members understand the importance of our natural resources. I know most of us have grown in areas where, cutting down firewood for domestic use is normal, until a certain point when you realize that these trees need to be taken care of. We need to have a different way of harvesting our natural resources. And until most probably that resource that the community have been depending on next door is exhausted, that's when they realize that environment is important and the forest needed to be harvested appropriately. So we have made sure that, institutions of learning from all levels, low levels to higher levels, there are links between the community and themselves, and they become centers of learning where community can be able now to learn and understand how to take care of our environment. And the third one is to develop a better understanding of the need to conserve wildlife and other biodiversity for the benefit of the present and the future generation. We understand as wildlife clubs of Kenya that the future generation is very important. And as they say, that whatever resources we are enjoying today, we have borrowed them from the future generation. It is on us to make sure that we help, conserve that which we have for today and for tomorrow. Wildlife Clubs of Kenya operates in a number of regions within the country. So we are spread across. We have our offices in Nairobi, that is the headquarters in Nairobi. But you will discover today that we have offices in all these regions. One, Nairobi region. Nairobi region covers, a number of counties, that is Kiambu County, Nairobi County, Kajiado County. And if you look at this region, we look at, the theme within the Savannah area. And we are able to teach our children, our students, on how to conserve these areas. So you find that all schools within this region, anything that we teach them, particularly when we bring them to, within Nairobi and Nairobi National Park, is about how to conserve Savannah ecosystem. We have another office within the Rift Valley, that is in Kisumu, in Nakuru, Nakuru office, which now targets the saline lakes within the Rift Valley. Again, schools within the Rift Valley, all along, they can be able to congregate within Nakuru, now a Nakuru office. And that becomes an area for them now to understand the saline lake ecosystem. How do they conserve them? Because one thing that we believe and understand in at WCK is that we do not need to take children from Nakuru to bring them to Nairobi to learn. They can learn within Nakuru. These are students who are experiencing issues and environmental problems within Nakuru. So the best thing that we can do is to teach them on how to solve those problems that are within where they are. Then Coast, we have another office in Mombasa, and this targets the marine ecosystem. Another office in western part of this country, specifically in Kitui, specifically in Kisumu, and this targets the freshwater ecosystem, because there are so many issues that affect the fresh water. And therefore, we can only be able to mobilize. And we have mobilized so many schools within the Western region who definitely come over to our center and are able to tour and to visit these areas, to understand and see the extent of what we have done as human beings as we undertake our daily activities. In the eastern part of this country, we have an office in Kitui, which targets the arid and semi-arid ecosystems. We need to teach those people how can they be able to restore the environment, back to its normal state. And that movement that has been created within Eastern region is bearing fruit. If you visit most of the communities, most of the schools, we are doing a lot of tree planting within these areas. And then mountain region, we have an office in Meru, which looks at forest ecosystems. Wildlife Clubs of Kenya, as I said, is built around membership, bringing people together, bringing communities together, individuals, corporate. And therefore, when we look at schools, because this is our main target. Schools are our main target. We have a membership of 5,000 schools. We believe there are so many schools in this country, and we are still working. We are work in progress, because we want to make sure that all schools in this country become members. And that means that when they are members, they know and they understand what conservation is all about, what natural resources are all about, and how they should be utilized and conserved. Under the schools, we have students and patrons. We are of about 1 million student membership together with their patrons. We still have so many students. And again, as I said, we are work in progress. We still want to bring so many and to make a movement that will create the force to make sure that everybody and anybody who comes across Wildlife Clubs of Kenya and who hears about conservation, definitely they act positively. Associate members, we have 500. We still have more, and we are inviting all of us who are in this forum today. let us join Wildlife Clubs of Kenya and make sure that we work together to make sure that our environment, our resources are well protected and conserved. Corporate members, we have a few of them. We still have so many. We are still reaching out to make sure that this movement becomes one that cannot most probably be compared with anything. Most probably, it needs to become, in quotes, the largest, environmental party as they talk of political parties. We need this to be the one that would be spearheading issues to do with environment and teaching people and making sure that everybody in this country is involved. One good thing about this is that we have started very low. We are teaching the very young on how to take care of these, resources, how to appreciate these resources in our environment. And as they grow, they will for sure not leave that path. And I can tell you, if this is, this grows to become that which we are looking at, then in a few years' time, we'll have everybody in this country being, there are quite a number of activities that we undertake under Wildlife Clubs of Kenya. I'll mention them very fast. We have mobile education unit where we are able to visit schools on the ground. And we are able to, show them documentaries on conservation. We are able to implement activities such as tree planting. We are also able to do briquette making with them on the ground. Briquette making is one aspect, a specific project that helps reduce stress on our forests and also helps to earn communities in some revenue. These mobile education units are at national level and also regional level. We also have ecological courses. These are field courses, and we are able to utilize those areas that I mentioned. And Nakuru, we use the Lake Nakuru and other lakes within the Rift Valley, and also within Nairobi, as I said, Nairobi National Park. Mombasa, we are able to use the Marine Park. Kisumu, we are able to use Lake Victoria, the vast, freshwater catchment. And also in Meru, as I said, we are able now to utilize the mountain forest. In Kitui, as I said, we are able now to utilize the arid and semi-arid lands. Other activities, as I said, teachers are part of us. We have teachers training workshops, or what we call TOTs, training of trainers, because we believe in training so that they can also go and train, and we train them across this country. It's a movement. We want them to make sure that as they teach in those classes, they are giving students, information or knowledge about conservation. We operate in at the beach. We have park and also beach cleanups, taking place. And we have been planting a lot of trees within the parks, within the, the coast. We have planted lots of mangrove seedlings. And this is a way of sensitizing not only the children, but also the community. We also hold youth leaders workshops, and conservation awareness rallies. We've also done a lot of advocacy campaign, particularly when it comes to tree growing. I can tell you this year, 2021, so far, we have planted over 500,000 seedlings, across the country, and we are doing more. And this is, a movement that keeps on spreading. And that's what we want. It has to keep on moving from one school to the other, from one community to the other. Kindly, the next slide. And
this will be the last one, I imagine, George.
Okay, the next slide, please. Yes, Mick. Comba Magazine is a magazine that we print 3 times a year, and we provide them to schools free of charge. It's all about conservation. It's all about restoration, giving this conservation and our resources. And these magazines are sent out, across the country. Our main purpose is to educate and involve the club members through the printed word. The final slide is to do with the way forward. Mick, kindly. Before the way forward, we have art and essay competition. It's another, activity that we involve students across the country. They write essays, they do artworks, and we are able to award. We also have combat safaris where we take children, across levels from primary to tertiary level to all our protected areas. Our main aim is to involve these students one-on-one with, our natural resources, our wildlife, so that at the end of the day, they can see the importance and reason why we should conserve. As Wildlife Clubs of Kenya, we believe that, there's more to do. As you have seen, our numbers are not where we want them. We are looking forward to entrenching hands-on, and holistic activities through Wildlife Clubs of Kenya in all schools, in our learning institutions. Let's have practical activities, tree planting, briquette making, all these are very, very important. Tree nursery, making, and a tree growing actually is not only about tree planting, it's about tree growing. We also need to have continuous capacity building of all teachers and on ESD, that is education for sustainable development and environmental education. We need to green the school curriculum. We need to have a lot of examples. We need to have a lot of projects in schools going on, tree planting, we have briquettes, and videos and documentaries need to be, brought down to this school so that students can understand why we need to take care of the environment. We also need to encourage schools and learning institutions to link with the community. School community linkages are very, very important. What we do in school, let us do it at home. What good if we plant trees within our schools, let us plant trees within our communities. If we utilize water sustainably in school, let us do the same at home. And above all, we need to take advantage of the CBC, the curriculum CBC, which is really, really friendly to what we do as conservationists. And we shall be able to entrench and infuse a lot of environmental aspects within it, so that at the end of the day, every learner who goes through our education system, they become number one conservationists. They become number one when it comes to natural resource management. So I want to welcome all of you. This is a movement, let us join and work and make sure that our resources are well conserved. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be with you. And I hope and believe that all of you, if not, will join us. We'll become members, either corporate members or associate members, so that we can move forward and make sure that we protect that which we love. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, John, before you leave, to respond to some of those comments. And maybe if you could also put some contact details. How do people get involved? How do people support? How do they bring their work into what Wildlife Clubs of Kenya is doing? So now I'd really like to invite Dr. Joy Tukahirwa. She comes from Uganda and leads the Uganda Land Care Network. And she's going to share a little bit about the land care model. This is very relevant for Kenya, as much of the work even in Uganda is coming onto Mount Elgon and linking very closely to Kenya. So please, Joy, over to you.
Allow me to introduce myself as from Uganda, but really I've been nurtured in Kenya. I want to thank ICRAF, which gave me the important milk for me to be able to move on and do practically what I was introduced on at ICRAF. So I bring greetings from Uganda Land Care Network, which is a countrywide platform addressing and focusing on scaling sustainable land management. And we are working with schools, we are working with communities, we are working with government as partners. I'm introducing this Uganda Land Care Network implementation model. The model is simple. It is actually taking a shape of a person. At the center is the innovation platforms. These are coalitions of individuals, private sector, farmers, government, everybody working toward scaling sustainable land management. It has two arms. One on the right is, let me start with the left. We are working at different scales because we are looking at scaling sustainable land management. We work with communities, we work with the sub-counties, and we work with districts. Although we are an NGO, we are in partnership with government, close partnership with government, and we have an ongoing MOU. The issue is when you work with the government, you are safe, you are looking at sustainability. Now, that's the reason why we have got these scales. In terms of outcomes, we are looking at increasing productivity, sustainability, institutional innovations, which is more on learning which never ends, and transformation. We look at the butterfly life cycle. That's what we are looking at in terms of the communities, the groups that we work with. We are looking at them metamorphosing and changing themselves from the egg to a butterfly which flies across and go to other horizons. That is enriching partnership and all the time learning. And of course, we are looking at scaling up, moving through local governments to national, and then to regional, to global. But also we are looking at scaling out, looking at the geographical scaling of these innovations across geographical areas. More people, more landscapes are on board. The heart, I have told you, these are coalitions, innovation platforms, but the feet are the strong farmer organizations. We are very keen to work and mobilize farmer organizations because they are the ones who are on the ground. They are the ones who are going to be planting trees. So stronger farmer organizations who have got no conflict, in other words, have got inbuilt conflict resolution, they have governance structures, they are empowered, they have voices. This is what we move on with farmer organization. But the head is one important aspect that is looking at issues with bylaws, issues with ordinances, making sure that as things change, we are responding. Right now, we are handling COVID. So we are looking at what do we do in terms of bylaws. Introducing, we have a wonderful tree, Ugandensis, which has come up with a very interesting opportunity for people to begin to eat and get treated of COVID. So we are looking at how do we now ensure that this tree is conserved? How do we ensure what ICRAF was doing, domesticating this tree from the protected areas to on farm? So in a nutshell, that is our implementation model. So I have explained it. The whole model is focusing on engaging land care platforms, using land care approach to catalyze action and ownership. These platforms, as I have mentioned, they are comprised of farmers, and I've told you that farmer groups are very important, and we are looking at nurturing them. We are looking at coaching them. We are looking at giving them, empowering them where they have. That is a very important. Policies, they bring the law of the land in it. And then the private sector, the traders, the transporters, the FM radios have been doing a wonderful job in making sure that our messages penetrate villages and everybody is on board. Extension agents and research and development partners. We also work with international organizations, as I've mentioned. I come from where I have, that is the science, bringing on to understand the science of raising a tree. You can't. So we are interested in making sure that our connections with the international organizations who are bringing innovations, we partner and we consolidate synergies. The strategies and approaches towards landscape, we are addressing a big issue that normally you have got fragmented sustainable land management. A farmer A next to farmer B, they are doing different things. Farmer A is implementing all sorts of innovations on the land to increase productivity. There is mulching, there is tree planting, there is trench making. Mention it. Next door, the farmer is not doing anything. So our issue has been everybody on board. So at farm level, we are looking at building effective, proactive grassroots land care platforms, linking grassroots level institutions to districts. Because at the district, that's where you have got government, that's where funds are coming in, that's where there is technical support. So our interest is how do we link, make sure that our farmer groups are linked with the district where they can harness a lot of benefits and they work together. At community level, we are looking at participation of communities in local nature, natural resource governance, including by law reforms and enforcement. This one, you can only do it when you are working with a community. So our effort goes to a community, to mobilizing communities. At a district, we are looking at maximizing knowledge management to support coordination, adequate financing, while capitalizing on the decentralization form of government. In Uganda, our government is more on ground, on grassroots, bottom up. So in land care, we try as much as possible to capitalize on that. And therefore, we have brought on board the technical team at the grassroots as our key platform. The district platform are the ones which drive activities in the district. Therefore, backstopping, ensuring that the technical know-how is embedded, ensuring that when resources are sent to from government, the central government, these same people are the ones who are going to be able to infiltrate it into the communities. At national level, we are looking at harnessing synergies of strengthened linkages between research and development and strong focus on knowledge generation, packaging, dissemination towards mainstreaming approaches. At national level, as I've mentioned, we have got an MOU with the Ministry of Agriculture. That is the key sector addressing our landscapes, our farming landscapes. So we are looking, we've been able to work with them hand in hand. We are working with the Uganda Extension Alliance. We are interested in making sure that we capitalize on those national institutions to make sure that they feed and they strengthen and they own. We see Uganda land care activities owned by government. We see it owned by the people. We see it owned by communities. Finally, this is exactly where we are looking at. What is the success story in terms of where do we draw our success story? Where is it coming from? We are drawing it from a dedicated SIM secretariat. I work with 4 other people. I'm the 5th. This is a SIM secretariat, but our biggest team is at the district where we have got these platforms who are now coordinating activities at community level. We are involved in nurturing, we are involved in capacity building through training, we are involved in harnessing visibility through advocacy. I have told you the role of FM radios, how they have brought wonderful things. We are looking at facilitating knowledge sharing. We have many manuals that we have been able to develop, and we are looking how do we get knowledge across. Finally, but very important, partnership. We are moving on to actually broker partnership and networks, because that's where actually land care is going to be forever, because all the time we have new partners coming on board, not only in government, but also with other NGOs, not only NGOs in Uganda, but also other NGOs. We are in partnership with a lot of organizations in Australia who backstop to us we see a lot of learning, a lot of working together behind this land care. Allow me to talk about the Junior Land Care Program, which is one of our flagship. This is a school-based program, and our effort is towards skilling school children to be able to handle land care activities. We even think about what happens if a primary school child drops out of school. This primary school child should be able to put together a nursery, should be able to actually be able to advocate and survive and be a farmer, eventually become a big farmer. So these are our activities. We have climate smart agriculture training. We are working with post landslide communities. I want to give you to say thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to share our model of implementation and how we are going on with land care in Uganda. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joy. And we really appreciate you taking the time to join us and share this model. I just wanted to let people know that there is some land care activities in Kenya, particularly focused around Machakos and Makueni. And within the continent, there's the African Land Care Network that supports the African efforts for land care, as well as an organization called Global Land Care, which also provides support. So we'll put those a link to that in the chat. If you're interested, you can link up with Joy and learn from the Uganda experience. The junior land care has been very, very impactful, particularly as well as the other approaches. And we can also link to global land care. So thank you so much, Joy. I'm sure there'll be some questions in the chat and we'll come back to you if we don't run out of time at the end. Thank you so much, Joy. Now I would like to just move on to some quick interventions. We have Justice Lovey from the Kenya Small Scale Farmers Association, who would like to share with us a quick insight on their approach and model. Okay, as we're waiting for Justice, I've just been informed that Zuhuru Juma, who was meant to be in the faith-based session, but has just joined recently, also has a lot of work at the grassroots level and would just like to say a few quick words. So Zuhuru, if you would like to make an intervention while we try and get hold of Justice.
Our organization, Minda Trust, which is based on coastal region, we also use natural resources to help especially women. We teach them how to be able to manage themselves using day-to-day what our land has provided for them, especially the 4 trees that do very well in coastal region. That is moringa, coconut, neem, and mango. And like moringa, we normally they use the herbs. Moringa is a very good herb, and they normally package the herbs and they sell for their own benefit. And coconut, normally we use it. It provides so many things, especially oil. They use the shells from the coconut to make ornaments, and they also use to make snacks. There's some very nice snacks you can use with the coconut, and roofing plus the brooms that normally they sell for like 20 shillings or so. But the most important thing is that it helps the women to support themselves, so they don't expect every time to get help, so that it can help themselves, and the trees are there. Also, we use neem tree to make the soaps, and mangoes to make snacks, and they also do fruit selling. Now, the most important thing here is that the key factor here is that you only take what you need. And as much as people we try to also plant trees, at least we get to use the trees are already there and help ourselves in life.
Thank you so much, Zuhura. We really appreciate that, and it's great that you could come online. Alan, did you want to make any other quick comments before we go back to Charles?
Well, thank you. Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it, how the grassroots and the faith really so often combine together at that grassroots setting, and how Muslim women, come together and encourage each other. Even I've seen them in the very peri-urban areas, quite challenging areas, but noticing and really benefiting and adding to what was traditional practices for those value-added things like those snacks, those soaps, and so forth from the trees that are already there. I think it was a very beautiful example. Thank you so much for Zahura for being able to join us. So much to learn from. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Now, just in case Justice can hear us, I can see you, but I'm not sure if you can hear us. Justice Lavi, are you able to hear us? If not, we might come back to you later. So now I would like to invite Charles Odhiambo. He is the Regreening Africa Program Manager for Kenya. So over to you, Charles.
Yes, welcome all of us to this conference on landscape restoration scaling. And I want to talk about how we do it here in Regreening Africa project here in Kenya. And you can see on the figure, the photo that is on the page, some work going on in Elgeyo Marakwet. That is actually in Kaptagat Forest. Now, the project that I manage is called Reversing Land Degradation in Africa by Scaling Up Evergreen Agriculture, a project that runs from 2017 to 2022 and is funded by the European Union, which was ably represented during the opening session. The project targets 8 African countries, 4 in the West and 4 in the East. In the West, it targets Ghana, Mali, Senegal, Niger, and in the East, it targets Kenya, Rwanda, Somalia, and Ethiopia. The goal of this project is to have livelihoods improved, to improve food security and resilience to climate change by smallholder farmers in Africa, and also restore ecosystem services through a set of practices that we call evergreen agriculture. Being implemented across the 8 African countries by ICRAF, the World Agroforestry, but the implementing partner in Kenya is World Vision together with other partners I'll mention later on. The overall project target is 500,000 households, scaling restoration across 1 million hectares of land. And in Kenya, our specific target is 50,000 households, scaling landscape restoration practices across 150,000 hectares of land in 9 counties. Now, these counties are seen there in the map. So we have from the west to the northern region, we have Homa Bay and Migori in the western side of Kenya. We have Nakuru, Baringo, and Elgeyo Marakwet across the Rift Valley. And then we have Laikipia, Samburu, Isiolo, and Marsabit in the northern part of the regional regions of Kenya. And in terms of the approaches or the key landscape restoration approaches that we are promoting as a project, we are promoting a farmer-managed natural regeneration approach, which targets both on-farm and rangeland restoration, and is very key for us. The main kind of approach that we are looking at to scale restoration across the 9 counties. We also
Sorry, Charles, you're still not particularly audible. There's quite a few comments in the chat. I'm not sure if there's any way that you can improve if there's headphones around, but otherwise just continue, but speak as loudly as you can if possible. And then I'll move through the slides quite quickly because of the time. Yeah.
The forestry, and we are doing enrichment planting, whereby we try to create diversity and fill in the gaps where FMNR is giving us what is predominantly one or a few species. We also promote value chain development for nature-based value chains, particularly targeting fruit trees, fodder, and honey. We are very keen to promote sustainable and green energy options, whereby we look at ways of relieving pressure on wood fuel as well as charcoal, so that we can have more landscape being restored. We are promoting financial inclusion, whereby we want to target the youth and women so that they can be able to plow back what they have saved into landscape restoration. We are promoting a set of soil and water conservation approaches like mulching, cover cropping, and even rainwater harvesting. We are promoting also reseeding with adaptable grass species, particularly in the rangelands. So some of those options are what I've shown there in the picture. We have FMNR and also we have fruit tree agroforestry. Now, our implementation strategy is based on the fact that we have picked 2 counties, that is Homa Bay and Migori, where we do direct scaling, where we try out various models, and then those that appear to be working well, we then be able to scale them in other counties. We work across 9 counties, as I mentioned. So in the upper regions of Kenya, like Laikipia, Samburu, Isiolo, and Marsabit, these are leverage counties. They are indirect scaling counties. These are counties where we don't have a physical presence throughout the year, but we work mainly with partners who promote rangeland ecosystem restoration, targeting pastoralists. Then in Nakuru, in Baringo, and in Elgeyo Marakwet in the Rift Valley, these are also leverage counties or indirect scaling counties where we work with agro-pastoral communities to promote most of the scaling or restoration approaches that I mentioned about. So what seems to work for us in Homa Bay and in Migori counties what we take out. And I want to say that we have taken out their FMNR, we have taken out their fruit tree agroforestry, we have taken out their enrichment planting, and also reseeding with adaptable grass species. Our scaling models are about 6 of them, 7 of them. We have the lead farmer model, where we have the lead farmers being capacity built and then reaching out to other farmers and influencing attitude, perception, and behavior change or practice change. Then we have exchange visits, like was shown during the break that we had, where farmers are taken out to have experiential learning. Then they can come and practice that which they have seen. Then we also use the community forest associations, where we sometimes build capacity for those that are existing, and then we use them to scale out restoration across the forest landscapes and even on farm. We also use school environment clubs, as seen in the pictures there. We also involve them in composing poems, songs, dances, and theater, and also in essay competitions, but more importantly, in establishing and managing tree nurseries, and also planting the same in their schools and at home. We work with the faith-based groups. As you have seen, Father Charles Odira was ably representing that group, is a member of National Oversight and Coordination Committee for this project. We also use a unique feature, youth soccer tournament, to bring youth on board, something that entices them. And then we have a theme that's core for restoration. For every goal scored, there's a set of seedlings that we give them to go and plant. We also work with farmer producer groups, particularly those that are doing work around fruit trees and other nature-based value chains. Our key leveraging partners are Kenya Forest Services, the community forest associations, and CBOs and FBOs. We work with county governments, Kenya Forest Services, and KEFRI. We work with Farming Systems Kenya. We work with Abex Agro Limited in promoting avocado value chain, and then we work with Parekma in promoting honey value chain. Thank you.
Wonderful, Charles. Thank you. Now over to you to introduce the community members to share their scaling models.
Thank you. Thank you, Charles. Thank you for the nice presentation that we have had. Abex Agro is one of the private companies in the North Rift, contracting farmers to grow as avocado for the export market and for oil extraction. We are working with 6 counties in the North Rift region. One being Baringo County, Elgeyo Marakwet, Trans Nzoia, Uasin Gishu County, Nandi, and Kericho County. The project started in 2018, and we have been able to reach over 2,000 households in our program and be able to give them over 200,000 avocado seedlings. And what we have been doing is we're able to give these farmers minimum 40 plants. That is enough for half an acre. And we give them on credit. Number 2, we have been giving them free extension support because we have agronomists in all the 6 counties. And then number 3, we did a 10-year agreement with these farmers to grow for us this Hass avocado that are ready now and we are already exporting. So we've been able to partner with the county governments or the 6 county governments. We did an MOU and we have been able to run our operations very well. Also, World Vision has been a partner in the program,
And in Elgeyo Marakwet and Baringo County, we are able to reach 500 more households through their support in terms of training and setting up model farms in all the groups that we are able to train. Also planning to reach more farmers in like Laikipia County and some parts in Elgeyo Marakwet, heading to mangoes and other value chains in that place. So it has been a nice project that this year, from May this year, we're able to send close to 25,000 kilos that we are able to pay these farmers around 1.5 million that went back to these farmers. And this is just our first harvest. We'll be having a factory to process the avocado fruits here in Eldoret very soon for oil and fresh for the export market. That one will give us more opportunities to reach more farmers and be able to really encourage them to grow the tree. I know avocado is a tree that give us income at the same time promote conservation in our farm. Most of the farmers that we've been reaching give us their have an acre, 1 acre in area that maybe they feel like they can't grow any other crop because of the slope, especially in Elgeyo Marakwet. And the tree has been really helping us to conserve the environment. So thank you for this forum. I think we'll have more to share as we go ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robert.
My name is Agnes Chepto from Elgeyo Marakwet County. I'm a tree nursery operator and I'm the chair lady of Cheptengis Ogilge Group in Achebara place. We are doing tree nursery project as a group. We are 21 in total. We have youth, we have women, and also we have 3 men. We have been doing this work since 2013. We have managed to train more than 7 groups in Elgeyo Marakwet as a group on the importance of tree growing and the importance of establishing tree nurseries in Elgeyo Marakwet. Secondly, we have partners who have been assisting us like Equity Bank. We have WWF and our county government who have been buying trees to schools and also to conserve our forest area in this side of Elgeyo Marakwet. Second, another thing is that we are training the community on how to conserve the environment. We are ensuring that each and every member of the community to plant more trees in the family, at least 2 children or 3 children to plant each and every one to plant 5 seedlings so that we conserve our environment. Also, we have our vision as a group that in Vision 2030 we targeting at least to plant at least 10 million seedlings so that we improve our 10% forest cover in Elgeyo Marakwet. Thank you.
Yes, I'm Sisai, as you were told by Dr. Odhiambo from Marsabit. I'm the chairman of Badasa Bee Farmers and Forest Conservation Group. We started conservation around 2015 because the records from the weatherman was showing a drastic drop in the rainfall around Marsabit Forest. Marsabit is Marsabit Forest is surrounded by deserts, and at the middle of the desert is Marsabit Forest, where communities surround the forest and pressure on the forest is extremely going, and deforestation is taking place. So we farmers, because we were growing early before El Nino, the area was productive, the rainfall was good, but after El Nino, the rains dropped, and so all farmers came together. We formed group so that we start tackling the effect of the climate change, and that is why we formed Badasa Bee Farmers, where the activities we undertake is afforestation in forest degraded sites, planting trees in public institutions, and increasing the forest areas where overgrazing of livestock is taking place. We control all that, and it's just around two years now, around 2020, when we came together also to add the component of beekeeping, because we wanted our farmers to benefit directly from the environment. without damaging the trees. For the conservation work to be relevant to them, because at the end of the day they want something to pay fees for their children. They want something to money to do their daily activities, and so we incorporated beekeeping so that they benefit directly from the conservation activities we are undertaking. And that's we formed around last year, we formed Marsabit Beekeepers Enterprise, where we are now buying the honey. We are marketing the honey for them at a larger price. And we are also buying from our farmers, linking them to the market, and we are selling for them everything so that they get benefit directly from the conservation activity they are carrying on. And it's just early this year, we met Dr. Odhiambo and his team of Regreening Africa project. They also helped us or trained us on high fruit tree production, whereby our farmers also were trained to incorporate fruit trees in conservation. They will benefit directly from the fruits that is given by the trees. And also we incorporate beekeeping to value add or to help in pollination, to also help us, because we are living around the forest, and elephants or attack from wild animals on fruit trees are a problem. We incorporated beekeeping. Beekeeping helps us to improve on our environment, to improve on the food, help us in pollination, and also it protects us, our fruit trees or our trees, from being invaded by elephants, which are destructive. They eat all the trees, they destroy the forest, and when we put beekeeping, the beehives there, they fear the bees, and they get scared, and they don't destroy our fruits, and hence the profit and the gains, or what our farmers get from the conservation activity is increased, and they are more and more farmers are involved now, are coming up into the enterprise, and that is how we are empowering them on our conservation activities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sisay, Agnes, and Robert for those interventions, and Charles for introducing the different mobilization approaches used by Regreening Africa. Please write in the chat how they believe we can further support community and grassroots mobilization, and any actions you think should be included in our plan that we present on Friday. Thank you so much to all the presenters in this part of the theme, this session, and I would like to hand back to Laura and over to the county session. Thank you all.
Thanks, Mika. It was really great to hear what the different models that are being used on the ground to upscale restoration, to mobilize communities to engage in restoration. So I'll just go over to the next session. We're going to have a session on county governments, like trying to see what they're doing on the ground. Now they're going to showcase the counties that we have who are going to showcase the experiences, or rather their success stories, are Marsabit, Migori, and Makueni, and we're going to focus on now their experiences with restoration, how they've been able to collaborate and mainstream landscape restoration into county processes. So I'd like to introduce the moderator for the next session. His name is Ken Oluoch from the Council of Governors. So Ken holds an MA degree in Social Development Management from Maseno University and a bachelor's degree in Environmental Planning and Management from Kenyatta University. He also holds a postgraduate diploma in Environmental Systems Management from the Galilee International Management Institute. He's a fellow from Danida Fellowship Center in Policy Dialogue for accelerating SDG implementation. He has vast experience in the field of environmental conservation, climate change, adaptation and mitigation, sustainable development, and community development, having held different positions in different organizations. So he's currently the technical lead for SDGs at the Council of Governors, supporting the mainstreaming of SDGs in the county governments and the Council of Governors activities. So thank you, Ken, and please welcome and take over the next session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura, for that introduction. And first, I would like to thank the previous speakers I think it's been quite engaging, and a lot of experiences coming from the faith-based organizations, as well as from the grassroots. And really the essence of this session is then again to listen to the county governments, and then explore and see possible areas of building synergies, because the county government really hold the function as prescribed in the constitution for supporting issues of environmental conservation, as well as issues of, forestry, community forests. And really the missing link has been, how do we build synergies between the community initiative, grassroots initiative, the faith-based organizations, various development partners in the county governments. So I believe that this session will really be that eye-opener, and also just to facilitate opportunities for us really addressing the issues of land restoration. So for this session, we have 6 panelists, and to share with us from 4 counties. We've been following up with Charles from Elgeyo Marakwet. I think he's had some network challenge. If he joins in the course of the session, then we'll give him an opportunity. So we have Madam Janet Ahato, who is the Director of Environment and Natural Resources from Marsabit County. Then we have Madam Mary Mbenge, the Chief Officer, Natural Resource and Environment, Natural Resource, Environment and Climate Change from Makueni County. Then we have Dr. Martin Amboloi, who is the Chief Officer for Agriculture, Irrigation, Livestock and Fisheries Development from Makueni County. We have Mr. Tom Misenya, Director of Environment and Natural Resources from Migori County. And then we have Professor Elijah Agambere, the County Chief Officer for Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries, Fishery Department from Migori County. So I'll just request my panelists to please take the 8 minutes so that we can have more time at the end to enable us to discuss further some of the issues that might arise from the presentation. So I'll welcome the first speaker, Madam Janet Ahato from Marsabit County, to just share with us the experience or lessons or key.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ken. I'm very grateful to be here today. Hello, everyone. I will take you through issues in relation to restoration for Marsabit, and I'm very glad for Marsabit County to be taken as one of the county. Okay, I can say I'll not take much time here. Marsabit County is an arid county. It has no any permanent rivers. It has 4 ecological zones, and it has a very unique environment in terms of ecology. It has 3 water towers, that's Mount Marsabit, Mount Kulal, and Huri Hills. And as you know, land and forest degradation is a serious global problem, and this has threatened the food security. And as per the Bond Challenge, landscape restoration has received a global endorsement, and this restoration issues of to restore 150 million hectares by 2020 and 350 million hectares by 2030. Towards the commitment to Bond Challenge, Kenya has committed to restore 5.1 hectares million by 2030, with the potential areas of 38.8 hectares countrywide. For Marsabit County, it's a very unique county. It has only 1.7% forest cover. The rest of the landscape is rangeland. And as per the Kenya Forest Service potential forest and landscape restoration mapping of 2016, the county has 7.6 hectares with the potential area to be restored at 6.3 hectares. And this is outlined as in the bracket, the degraded areas, forest, rangeland, roads, and rivers, the areas that have potential areas to be restored. Next, I'll take you through ongoing intervention and restoration in the county. We have issues on rangeland rehabilitation, which we do through reseeding. We support aspect of natural regeneration through embracing the farmer-managed natural regeneration, just ensuring that the forest, the trees that we have are naturally restored through natural regeneration. Establishment of tree nurseries, which we target special groups like women, youth, people who are differently abled, and encouraging community-led tree planting programs. We have aspect of non-wood forest product utilization, which we embrace as one way of restoration in terms of beekeeping, gum and resin, aloe vera utilization in a sustainable way. We again look at water catchment protection through coming up with sub-catchment management plans and implementation through using water users. And then we train communities on natural resource management by coming up with the aspect of ROM, like restoration opportunities assessment methodology, whereby communities identify potential areas for restoration and take the initiative to restore the degraded land. We also focus on water structure development to encourage on rainwater harvesting. And we have aspect of a farmer field schools, whereby it's a demo farms for farmers to come and learn and duplicate the same issues at their farm level. Next slide, please. On achievements, on experience or restoration efforts, for some of the achievements we have done as a county, we have initiated locally led climate change actions, because all what we are addressing is climate change issues. And this one we are embracing adaptation and mitigation action through establishment of, we have Marsabit County Climate Change Policy. And this policy address aspects of climate change and restoration. This is just the document. I will share a soft copy of this later. We have the Climate Change Adaptation Action Plan as a county, the plan that looks at from 2018-22. This is the document. Maybe I will share later the soft copy of this for those who are interested. And then we have the act, the act that has established Climate Change Fund. This is the fund that looks at how to integrate, how to address the climate change issues at grassroots level. And it has established a structure, a bottom-up structure, whereby we have focus at ward level, a kind of, a locally led climate change issues, and locally led actions in restoration. And this is the act that has established a fund that clearly goes to a grassroots, initiative on restoration issues and address restoration issues. And I will share the act later in soft copy. This is the act, just to show. And then we have a natural resource management policy. This policy looks at the natural resource within the county and how best can we sustainably manage and sustainably utilize to ensure that the restoration issues are well taken care of. And then the other one is we have successfully initiated a farmer managed natural resource conservation model at community level. Tree growing culture among the communities by establishing nurseries. And this way we have established 8 tree nurseries and planted 16,000 seedlings since beginning of this year to date. And those are some of the photos that clearly show some of the issues that we do. Range, range reseeding in relation to rehabilitation, aspect of, hay storage to be used during the drought time, the tree nursery establishment, and then issues of sustainable harvesting of gum and resin through a well-organized and registered community groups to embrace non-wood forest product harvesting. And then the establishment, establish a collaboration with stakeholders in terms of gum and resin to support gum and resin value chain. And then we have established one factory to support a value chain, and this is in collaboration with stakeholders. And then we have promoted a climate smart agriculture for sustainable farming. Those are just some of the photos in terms of to promote, restoration initiatives and restoration efforts at community level, like, aspect of farming, aspect of establishing nurseries, and then promoting climate smart agriculture. And then the challenges to restoration. I will take much time here so that we can embrace some of these challenges and how we can address in terms of ensuring that we promote aspect of restoration. Keeping large number of livestock that exceed the land carrying capacity is one of the challenge. And this one I'm talking aspect of pastoralism, because we do a lot of initiatives in terms of restoration, but the aspect of the land carrying capacity and the number of livestock that we keep is an effort and it's a challenge, restoration. And then for the Marsabit County, the vastness of the county is the largest county, and this makes the restoration effort sometimes very expensive. And then the communal ownership of land, you know, the tragedy of common, this belongs to all of us. So at the end of the day, the aspect of, you know, ownership, aspect of taking care of the restoration effort that different stakeholders have put in place become a problem. And then the low level of knowledge among pastoralists, this has slowed down restoration options because when you bring out, like, you know, an initiative or a model on restoration, the knowledge of people is very low. So this makes the restoration efforts very slow in terms of adoption. And then the aspect of the climate change, the recurrent drought that interferes with the restoration efforts, especially the tree growing initiative. And then the poverty level of people. It's very high. And this one I will quote for the Marsabit County. So people depend more on natural resources. So when you aspect of restoration, the range reseeding, tree planting, you know, supporting the groups in terms of non-wood forest products. So the dependency on natural resource is very high, and sometimes this hinders the restoration efforts. And then I will go into mainstreaming, how to mainstream landscape restoration in county planning. Mainstreaming is very key to achieve the aspect of sustainable environmental conservation. And then the restoration issues, as we know, cut across so many sectors. That is water, environment, land, agriculture, you know, livestock, culture, among others. And when it cuts across all sectors, sometimes it's very, very kind of challenging or an oversight not to address the restoration in a holistic manner. So there's a way, there's need to come up with all these issues and kind of address them in a holistic manner by mainstreaming in several sectors the restoration issues. And then, as we know, the main county planning tool is the County Integrated Development Plan and sector plans and policies. So there is need to integrate the restoration issues into this planning so that at the end of the day, the restoration issues are well integrated in the County Integrated Planning Development Plan. And currently, you know, the plan is coming to an end in the next year. So how best are we going to ensure that the restoration issues are well captured? The current CIDP, for example, for my case, for Marsabit, if you look, you scan through this document, yes, the restoration issues are there, but they are not well captured. And if you look even for a word like restoration, it's not well. So there's need to kind of pack this restoration initiative and options and opportunities for each county and ensure in the next CIDP are well integrated so that it's in line with what Kenya, you know, is trying to address in aspect of restoration. And then the development of, sorry, I'm not done with that. Kindly go back to that slide. And then lobby for creation of a fund at county level. And this can be done through coming out with an act to ensure at the end of the day, the target, the Kenyan target of restoring 5.1 million hectares of land is coming from the counties. So how best each county will address this issue, and at the end of the day, we ensure that we address the national target. And then the integration of restoration issues and intervention in sector plans and policies, another way to mainstream. Collaboration and partnership in restoration efforts. Comprehensive stakeholder engagement is very key for success of restoration initiative. And this one, I'm talking of stakeholder analysis to know who is there, who is doing what, to ensure to embrace a comprehensive kind of stakeholder engagement. Joint planning, implementation, and monitoring for restoration for effort is very important, because when you walk alone at the end of the day, you will not achieve. So joint planning and implementation of all the acts is very important. Embracing locally led action and close collaboration and interaction with local communities and beneficiaries. Locally led action is very key for the success of any restoration issues, because at the end of the day, these communities have been living with this environment for years and years, and they are using the locally led actions, indigenous knowledge. So how are we going to embrace the locally action and kind of advance those actions and ensure that community take responsibility, community take ownership to ensure the restoration issues are well captured. And then the partnership and collaboration with the key private sectors is very important. Private sector is very important to kind of supplement what the government, what the community are doing, and ensure joint kind of collaboration. And then the joint stakeholder resource mobilization is very important as one way of collaboration. And then the county government working closely with the national government for policy direction and technical advice. And then the aspect of integration of restoration activities at the ward development plan. And then this will help to create lobby groups and ensure restoration issues are well integrated in budget planning, especially during the public participation, whereby the communities should ensure that the restoration issues are well captured within the budget process. This can be well integrated through the ward development plan, and the county government is currently helping, especially for Marsabit County, is currently helping the ward to come up with ward development plan. So we integrate the restoration issues in this ward development plan so that during the budget process and public participation, the restoration issues, the environmental issues are well budgeted. So thank you very much. That is some of the photos from Marsabit County. Mount Tukulal Forest is one of the community managed forests. And as a county, we are very grateful and of all the participants for listening to us. Restoration issues is the responsibility for everyone. Everybody has a responsibility as the county governments as a lead to ensure that all the actors are well coordinated, community level, at the national level, at the stakeholder level, at the CBO level. We are here to coordinate the environmental issues, the restoration issues to ensure that we restore our degraded land, to ensure we achieve the value for our forest, the value for our rangeland, so that we can attach important value to our issues, to our restoration issues, and ensure a sustainable management of our resources. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Janet. Quite a number of good success stories coming from Marsabit. I encourage the participants to utilize the chat. If you have any question arising from the presentation, kindly just post it on the chat. We'll consider some the questions at some stage. A number of key standing issues from that presentation. I think the engagement of communities in identifying potential areas for restoration is very important. Then establishment of demonstration centers. And I think Marsabit has developed quite an elaborate policy and legal framework to support both climate change and restoration, quite commendable. And the issue of locally led action, very instrumental. How do you engage the grassroots, the faith-based organizations at the local level? Quite impressive, and thank you very much, Marsabit. I would then like to welcome the next speaker, Madam Mary Benge, the Chief Officer, Natural Resource Environment and Climate Change, Makueni County.
Okay, thank you so much, and hello to everybody. My name is Mary Benge. I'm the Chief Officer for Natural Resources, Environment and Climate Change in Makueni County. And today I would just like to give a short presentation about restoration and the opportunities that we have for restoring landscapes in Makueni County. So just to begin with, I'm sorry I don't have a presentation. I'm not very good when I look at the presentation and I get a bit confused, so you'll pardon me for that. I will just give a short brief. And this is because nature-based solutions in terms of landscape restoration are very, very important in the times that we are living in. We are very keen in Makueni County, especially with greening and environment, conservation, and climate change. And for that, it has been demonstrated through the legal frameworks that we've set up, which have seen local community structures being set up from a grassroots level at ward level, and also implementation of projects through the same. The same has also been put in terms of the county blueprint, that is the CIDB, where we've mainstreamed all this in terms of all sectors need to dedicate themselves into greening aspects. That being said, there's also climate change mainstreamed in terms of a cross-cutting issue, so that when we are also looking at the other cross-cutting issues like youth, women, persons living with disability, we also put the aspect of climate change in there. So the landscape restoration is basically a win-win situation for us, because we have found out that it's really, really cost effective, especially in creating jobs and protecting livelihoods. Because while we are doing the tree planting, for example, in farmlands, we'll do the tree planting in form of like fruit tree farming. And I think my colleague CEO will talk a little bit about that, because at the end of the day, trees are just not trees. I like someone who said we are growing trees, and that is right for Makueni, because you'll find farmers will ask you, what if I plant this specific species of tree? What would I benefit? So we need to show that kind of benefit, and it is shown in Makueni through fruit tree farming, and eventually we are adding value to that. So what I was saying was that it is a win-win situation, and it is cost-effective in creating jobs and protecting livelihoods, bettering these livelihoods, and also safeguarding biodiversity, and of course helping in adaptation and mitigation of climate change. So to reach these goals, people have to be at the center, and the community in Makueni is always at the center through our public participation models. And so we involve them from stages of planning to designing to implementation of restoration projects. So this has been done through like adapting to the ROAM. The ROAM is the Restoration Opportunities Assessment Methodology, which was taught to us by WRI, and it helps us in measuring ecosystem services, livelihood benefits, and basically things to do with social inclusion, like involving the gender issue, and of course in issues to do with land tenure. So the ROAM has been revealed as a very, very important opportunity for restoration for communities, because first of all, we meet, identify problems that are prevailing, that is in terms of like maybe deforestation, overstocking, soil erosion, and all that. Then from there, we look at an approach where we can coordinate and partner with everybody, all the stakeholders, in terms of sharing information for that kind of restoration. So we've done serious mapping in the whole county, and then we've decided to see where the problems are. We prioritize that, and then now we have a priority in terms of a list. So we know where we are going to begin and what methodologies we're going to use. Some of these methodologies are actually like varied, so they are like in a mix. So if it is like gully curing, there's the part where you have to divert maybe road water, and then you have to do maybe the gabions, and then at the end of the day plant vegetation. So this is a myriad of interventions into one problem. So they are varied like that, and I think this is also the approach that we've been referring to, like the land care, which is quite embraced in Makueni. So up to there, I just want to say it's not something that can be done in one go. It's a process, and so we have to continue like involving everybody if we want to have this kind of success, because we have very many key players in landscapes. Remember, they are not just land, but landscapes, which means there's a variety of uses that go into it, and key players that run into that. So we are happy to involve the government, funders, the civil society, like ICRAF. We've been really working with them, and of course the local community in unlocking ways in which they can benefit, and the finance needed to realize this economic, social, and climate benefits for restoration. So thank you very much, and good day.
Thank you very much, Madam Mary, for that very elaborate presentation. Issues of nature-based solution, I think that came very strongly. and aspects of the cost-benefit analysis, and of course, looking at planting of fruit trees. And I must say, Makueni is one of the counties that also have really developed an elaborate framework for public participation that goes up to the lowest level, the ward level, as well as a policy framework for public participation, as well as climate change. And also Makueni will be hosting our devolution conference for this year. And part of that is a tree growing initiative targeting 2 million trees. Maybe just a tidbit.
Yeah.
But thank you very much, Madam Mary. And without taking much time, I will welcome the next speaker. But probably Mary will come back to maybe just say more about the initiative, the devolution forest, and all the other plant initiatives.
Okay.
I would then like to welcome Mr. Martin Mboloi, who is the Chief Officer, Agriculture, Irrigation, Livestock and Fisheries Development from Makueni County. Karibu sana, Chief.
Thank you very much, Tom. My name is Martin Mboloi. I'm the Chief Officer, Agriculture, Irrigation, Livestock and Fisheries Development in Makueni County. I think I have to declare I'm out of office, so if you get some background noise, please don't mind. So I hope I'm going to be very clear. I've got a presentation, and thank you for all the presenters that are presented this morning. In form of introduction, I'll be very brief again, and I think the point here that I want to make is Makueni current forest cover in the county stands about 13.6%. We know the national target is 10%. So land restoration is an initiative taken by the government of Makueni County that seeks to reverse or restore land degradation in many areas within the county and share the experiences of other counties within the country. So the county has developed a program of land restoration through incorporation of agroforestry activities where integration of trees into croplands, communal lands, pastoral areas to enable greening efforts, aiming at improved livelihood and food security to many households in the county and increase the resilience of the worst impact of climate change. I think at this stage, I would like to say the land area of Makueni is about 8,000 square kilometers. We've got through agroecological zones, depending on the rain that we receive. So we've got highlands that receive more rain than the middle ground and lower area, which receive less rainfall. And therefore, our planning is based on those three agroecological zones. So restoration being a process aimed at cleaning up and rehabilitation of the ecological zones, which naturally sustain environmental degradation or caused by human activity, and bring it back as flora and fauna home in a balanced habitat. Agroforestry being the integration of trees and shrubs into crop and animal systems to create environmental, economic, and social benefits. The county government has prioritized it as the key driver in land restoration. The evidence can be seen from developed and other developing countries whereby they have prioritized agroforestry practices for environmental conservation and food security. Next, land restoration through agroforestry. I think here we are talking about agroforest, where we are talking about crops, we are talking about tree planting, we are talking about livestock keeping. So these components affect the restoration through developing land, improving it to better environment. So land restoration through agriculture, crops, and fruit trees. I think my colleague Mary had mentioned something to do with this. Farmers have been trained on climate smart agriculture. We really emphasize on this in our department. So farming in the county has been intensified through the introduction of drought-tolerant crop varieties and awareness creation on indigenous varieties for land restoration. The county through the department has introduced farmers new farming techniques while improving the soil, crops value chains. We've got defined value chains, fruit value chains, indigenous cross varieties, introduction of zypits for restoration and micro catchment on the ground. Next. Terracing is the other issue that we address, and there's a department we promoted sustainable land management through terracing and other interventions like training of service providers to give necessary skills to the community on conservation. And in this one, we are even involving the community by hiring, community extension service providers and train them. And in each ward, we have 30 wards, we are going to deploy 8 of these community extension volunteers, which will be doing some of these activities to enable our farmers learn more and, adopt climate smart farming technologies. So providing them with soil conservation kits, grass strips, and must-store planting. Tree planting nurseries, the county through the department, our Department of Agriculture has established tree nurseries in every sub-county to avail materials for planting in any degraded site in the same sub-county. You realize, this is critical and varies from environment to environment. So we're encouraging our farmers actually to locally develop their own seedlings and plant seedlings from the nurseries within the different agroecological areas. So the tree nurseries established are also model sites for learning and acquisition of new land conservation technologies. So the county through the department has been participating in tree planting exercises in the community through mobilizing them in mapping the affected areas for tree planting. The source of planting materials come from the established tree nurseries. And I also want to say here, we are working with, we've got programs and partners who we are working with in establishing these nurseries, and as well as, even things like terracing. We've got NARIG as a program, we've got CIVAP as a program that we partner in doing some of these activities. So the same has been happening in schools and other institutions that need rehabilitation of existing sites. Seeding through broadcasting, some sites we are at some levels are broadcasted with some specific tree species which aggressively grow fast and heal the site. Species such as Lucina leucophila and Lucina diversifolia can be broadcasted, and after establishment, it becomes fodder for livestock supplement. So establishment of fodder banks in degraded areas, the department has also taken the initiative of introducing the fodder banks in degraded sites as a technology to conserve and feed to livestock. Land restoration in livestock development, the county has enhanced livestock development through establishment of pasture lands for the livestock, feed restoration as follows. Degraded areas, as I've mentioned, the degraded areas are needy areas which require quick intervention. For restoration, therefore, the following has been done. Again, terracing, and this has been made possible through participatory process. Makueni, I think, is famous for public participation. The community has been mobilized by the department through sensitization to form groups of digging terraces for rehabilitation purpose. And this financial year, this is going to be a big thing. There's a lot of resources that have been set aside for this kind of work. The same is reflected back in their farms in order to avoid any degradation. Enclosure, the department has sensitized the community on the importance of enclosure of the degraded sites, fencing of degraded sites, and left to heal through natural regeneration. Enrichment, the department has also trained the community members on how to enrich the degraded sites. This is done through vegetative grass splits and fodder tree species with an aim of healing these sites. And then reseeding, and the degraded sites reseeded with desired grass species, which can both conserve the site as well as benefiting the livestock through pasture feed. Bush management, important trees and shrubs for livestock are maintained, thus protecting the land from being exposed to degradation. And range land management, enhanced enhancement of pasture in rangelands and ground cover protection. We've got partners that we work with that I mentioned earlier, and promotion of pasture development. Some are URI, I think URI is well known, and EQUISAT. And these are, accelerated value chain development for pasture and crops development. The cereals that are common are sorghum and millet. Pulses, we've got green grams, cowpeas, and pigeon peas being common in Makueni. Next. Now, mainstreaming the activities, as my colleague has already mentioned, the activities done by the department are incorporated in general field extension for community development through preparation of the development plans for a period of 5 years, the CIDP, involvement of stakeholders through public participation. Now, going into challenges, of course, we all have these challenges. Climate change has been a setback in land rehabilitation processes, low survival rate in tree planting in the degraded sites due to change of rainfall pattern in the area, inadequate funding, as usual, for implementation processes, inadequate consultation, cooperation, coordination between different players involved in the implementation, inadequate soil and water conservation structure in the degraded areas. Then, of course, the budget has been experiencing inadequate budget for the restoration. As I've mentioned, we need partners actually to be able to top up in the limited resources that the county has. Land restoration techniques should be incorporated in every field extension program. Collaboration can enhance the process of restoration. Community and other stakeholders' involvement in land restoration process is the key to restoration process. Donor funding is required in the restoration process due to lack of adequate budget in the county and the department. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Daktari, for that presentation. Quite a number of impressive stories coming from Makueni. And I believe synergy areas have also been brought out, how to strengthen the linkage with both the faith-based and the grassroots and the development partners. Mr. Tom Misenya, who is the Director, Environment and Natural Resources from Migori County. Karibu sana, Bwana Tom.
Presentation on Migori County initiatives. The first slide basically shows the Migori County fact file and where it's located in terms of rainfall, annual temperature, and potential evapotranspiration. These are the initiatives that's being carried by Migori County in landscape restoration. The first is farm forestry and agroforestry initiatives. As seen on the slide, we can see a farmer practicing agroforestry practices where fruit trees are being grown. So the farmer will harvest the fruits and sell and improve its livelihood, while at the same time restores the landscape. We have over 200 farmers practicing such initiatives. And of course, I will be covering the partnerships. This we are doing with World Vision and other partners. The next slide shows a greening program, which we practice in public institutions, as well as in roadsides. On the slide, we can see engagement of schools where we do plant trees in schools. We establish woodlots. At the same time, when we are doing this, then we restore landscape. The next slide. We have degraded hilltops and riverine protection where we partner with private partners, basically the British American Tobacco, where we are restoring several hilltops within Migori County. We also partner with financial institutions like Equity Bank, where they adopt a forest, they plant trees, and they manage the trees. So far, we have done 150 hectares in our hilltops, and we have also done riverine protection using bamboo and other water-friendly trees. Capacity building of stakeholders in schools, farmer groups, community forest associations, water resource users. All this, we have built their capacity. We also have environmental clubs in schools to sustain the environmental activities. For example, in the previous slide, where we had school children planting trees, we have environmental club to do environmental activities. We also do enrichment planting. We train CFAs. We train farmer groups. We call them the lead farmers, as well as water resource users associations on environmental management activities. Next slide. That slide shows our farmer managed natural resource regeneration, which is a practice in Migori County. On the slide, we can see the farmers practicing FMNR on a farm, that is an individual farm, and the partnership involves the national government. You can see the chief area being involved in the activity. Migori County is known for mining activities, and mining is one of the activities that degrades landscape. And as a county, in partnership with the national government, Ministry of Mining and Petroleum, we have gazetted the Migori County Artisanal Mining Committee that regulates mining activities through granting, renewal, and revocation of artisanal mining permits. And now it's a requirement that before you start mining, you must have a restoration plan. And the county is keen. Clean, efficient energy initiatives. We have briquette making, provision of energy saving devices, and solar energy. This is where the county partners with the CBOs, partners with the Sony Sugar Factory to make briquettes from the bagasse residues, and the Department of Energy also provides energy saving GECOs. Of course, that goes along in saving our forests. Tree nursery, where in each sub-county, we have 8 sub-counties, we have established a tree nursery where we do tree production as well as a model for training farmers. Farmers are trained on, for example, adding value to fruit trees, grafting of fruit trees, and the seedlings are issued out to public institutions, to CFAs for planting. The sustainable forest management, food safety, and climate change policies. The next slide. The county planning, we have the county CIDP, the second generation of the CIDP, the sectoral plans and the special plan, and the cities and urban areas plans. But the budgetary allocation for restoration is usually very minimal. Even in the CIDP, restoration issues are not really given a lot of attention. Challenges, we have adverse climatic conditions, delays in disbursement from the National Treasury, land and tree tenure, especially with the vulnerable groups, the long-term investment in tree growing, inadequate resources in terms of certified tree planting, inadequate enforcement in terms of enforcing legislations, and lastly, the last slide, the COVID pandemic, delays in compensation to farmers and implementing FMNR in community forests. FMNR works well with individual farmers, but when it comes to community forest, it's a big challenge. We are solving that by forming the community forest associations. I think that is the last slide.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tom. I think it's been very difficult to stop either of the counties because of the very good success stories coming out. And I think this will require more time for us to share everything. But I think from Migori, quite interesting bit coming around partnership, building partnership with private sector, and of course the issue of artisanal mining committees and how to engage the local grassroots communities as part of the licensing process for us artisanal mining. Thank you very much. And without taking much time, I would like to welcome Professor Elijah Gambere, just to share with us his presentation. I note a lot of discussions coming from the chat box. We'll pick some of them if time allows at the end of this presentation. Thank you very much, and Karibu, Professor.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to make a presentation, a brief presentation. The one who has just left the seat, you can see we are sharing the computer or the laptop, is the Director Environment in the County Government of Migori. And I'm the County Chief Officer for the Department of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Veterinary Services. My name is Elijah Mwita Gambere. At the same time also the NOC chair for the Regreening Africa program, which is implemented by World Vision. So I'm so happy to be here so that I'm able to give some few briefs as far as the Department of Agriculture is concerned. Quite a lot has been shared from my colleague from Makueni, and also a lot has been shared from the Director of Environment in the County of Migori. So mine will be just be, thank you. I'll start by giving a statement. The basis for sustainable socioeconomic development in Kenya rests on natural resources. What we are discussing today and what we've been discussing all along is about how we can sustain our natural resources. And this includes land, water, wildlife, and forests. Because of the combined effects of the population growth, poor land management practices on farms, and poverty, these resources are being depleted at a faster rate than they can replenish themselves. This rate of depletion is adversely affecting ecosystems and the human beings whose livelihoods rely on them. I can really vividly remember that when we began discussing this issue of landscape restoration, it's all about what I've just mentioned in that statement of how agricultural practices can affect the environment. And we are talking about the environment, we are referring to everything that I've mentioned. It includes land, it includes water, all the resources that are found on the land. Now, that chart is very interesting in the sense that when you have poor agricultural practices implemented in our counties, in our country, what is the result? What is the effect? Now, at the bottom level of that illustration, you'll find the range of activities that are being undertaken when we are undertaking agriculture. Now, on the left side of the slide, at the bottom level, activities that result into deforestation or the removal of trees from the land. Now, on the left-hand side, when you're talking about the inputs, we are talking about, for example, fertilizers and pesticides that affect the organisms that are found in the soil. And when these organisms are destroyed, then eventually they also affect the natural soil fertility. That is, the natural soil fertility is lost. And on the other side, when we have loss of deforestation as a result of agricultural activities, because there's the cutting of trees, there is the plowing, and all the vegetations of the land are removed, then what is the net effect of that? Now, on the top, we now have land degradation, increased soil erosion, increased sedimentation and siltation down the streams, threat to biodiversity, threat to water pollution stability, threat to acidic soils, forest resource degradation, and carbon sink degradation. So this is a slide that is really showing us that when we undertake our agricultural practices poorly, the practices are poorly done, then these are the effects that you are going to encounter as far as the effect of that activities are concerned on the environment. Now, I've specifically now zeroed down to one particular practice that is very rampant and has been there for quite some time now. And before the evolution, there was a lot of tobacco farming in Migori County. And not only Migori County, there are several counties and several parts of this country where tobacco was being grown. There are a number of companies that have been producing tobacco, including British American Tobacco, Mastermind Kenya, and Alliance One. There are others that have come in. Now, I want to show you an illustration of what happens. Now, those are the activities that I'm talking about. When we go back to the slide that we've just come from, you'll realize that there are a number of activities that are being undertaken with specific production of tobacco. As I've said, with this slide, there are a number of activities that are being undertaken, and these activities that are being undertaken are now illustrated in the diagram or in the slide that we've just come from. Just let's move to the next one, and then I'll be able to combine the two as I'm explaining. You can see that is a farm of tobacco. Then the second slide shows, sorry, go back, please. Just go back to the slide that is giving illustrations. Yes. Now, that first slide, that picture or the photo is indicating a tobacco farm. The second picture is indicating people who are working on the farm in their home. That is Mzee with his children trying to tie the leaves. And then once the leaves have been tied, the third last picture there shows what we call a tobacco barn. And beside it, you'll see lots of wood. Those are woods that will be used to cure the leaves. Now, as you can see, the three pictures, they are all demonstrating the activities that are being undertaken when you're producing tobacco. So you can now realize that in that particular slide, there are a number of things that are happening there. One of the things that is happening there is that during the production of tobacco, when you are farming, trees are cut down. And then when you are tying the leaves, you use also trees. When you are now curing that tobacco, you also use the trees. On all these sites, you find that there's lots of trees. And these lots of trees will go back into what I told you in the first slide, that when you cut down trees, you do what we call deforestation. Trees are cut down. And in the process, there is the net effect of that, because there is the destruction of the environment as a result of the cutting down of trees. And maybe somebody is wondering, why maybe few trees? It's not few trees. You may not be able to know that, but let me give you facts about tobacco curing. That 1 hectare of trees, 1 acre of trees cures a half hectare of tobacco. Secondly, I want to say that 3 cubic centimeters of wood cures 1 patch of tobacco leaves. Then the third fact that I want you to know is that 12 million trees, when cut, they cure 12 million trees are cut every year to cure tobacco. So that's a very huge amount of trees, 12 million trees that are cut down to cure tobacco. Now, because this has been a big problem before devolution, now the current government of Migori came up with a diversification method, that is coming up with alternative methods to tobacco farming. So this diversification was to bring about land restoration, that is coming up with an alternative crop that does not consume a lot of trees when you are producing it. And one of that crop, there are several of them. We are growing maize, we are growing sorghum, we are growing a range of crops, including sugarcane. But one of the most important crops that I can mention about Migori County government is a crop called sweet potato. Migori currently could be among the highest producers of sweet potato. Why? Because we wanted to come up with a crop that can be grown instead of tobacco. Yes, there are few farmers who are still clinging on tobacco, but now here we have come up with a program. The government is coming up with a program where they are really investing heavily on the production of sweet potato farm. Now, on the upper side of the left-hand side of the slide, you'll see a farmer who has a very huge land under potato production, and you can see the crop has covered the soil. So the soil cannot be lost through erosion. The soil, even through rain runoffs, they cannot destroy the soil because the soil is covered. Now, on the right-hand side of the slide, you'll see a factory that the government, in partnership with of several partners, and specifically European Union, that is the IDEA-led program, they have come up with the construction of a sweet potato factory. And I'm glad to inform you that in the next few months, but probably by around September, we are commissioning that factory that is coming out to salvage the farmers in Migori County government. Now, that is an alternative measure that the county government has come up with, that is instead of the farmers relying on the production of tobacco, there is an alternative crop that they can rely on that can give them food and also give them income. So that is a very clear indication that when the county governments come up with good initiatives, this can reduce land degradation, it can reduce deforestation, and in the process, it can save the county and it can save the land, it can save the environment from that kind of effect that we saw when we do bad agricultural practices. The Department of Agriculture, alongside what many presenters have said, we also carry out a lot of agroforestry programs, as my director has also said from the Department of Agriculture, Environment. We involve women, we involve youths who are doing a lot of tree planting. And as you can see on either sides, this is the group that is current and that are doing some nursery. These trees will be, of course, be transferred and be planted, and that's what you see on the extreme right. Finally, I'm giving some recommendations that when utilized well, then you find that our country will do a lot of land restorations. And one of the recommendations that are put in place is that establishment of effective and efficient agricultural extension services is needed to enhance sharing of best practices towards sustainable development. This will result in environmental protection and increase the amount of food produced, as well as improve the income generated by farmers. Secondly, I'm saying that protect the environment will enhance provision of clean air and water. That's as a result of when the environment is protected, and then removal of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere by fruit trees will provide nutrients for health and recreational benefits. Wetlands will perform important functions that include water purification, nutrient recycling, flood control, and provision of wildlife habitat. Finally, consequently, farmers will have improved quality of life in the country. That is as a result of good agricultural practices. Finally, Asanteni.
Thank you very much, Prof, for that very eye-opening presentation from Migori County. And I think you've given very good illustrations on how to strike the balance in terms of agriculture input as well as environmental sustainability aspects, and the facts and figures about the timber or wood required for tobacco curing. Very informative. I want to really thank my presenters, the panelists. I think this session has been quite informative and probably required more time, but I think we've tried to the best of our opportunity. I note a lot of comments that are in the chat. We will work with the organizers to see how we can respond to all of them. But finally, because of the question that has arisen about the devolution conference, I just wanted to invite Madam Mary Mbenge to maybe just take 1 minute just to say something about the devolution conference, because Makueni County will be hosting the 7th and final devolution conference organized by the Council of Governors and Stakeholders.
The devolution conference, like my colleague Ken said, it will be held in Makueni. This is the final biannual devolution conference. And for devolution conference, we want to just celebrate the fruits of devolution. So if you like devolution and you think devolution works, this is the opportunity to come to Makueni. And so we are welcoming all of you to Makueni County to just come and celebrate with us. This year's theme is also for all of you in the environmentalists and climate change experts, because the theme is a multi-level governance for climate action. And the focus is basically in the subnational sector. So we are talking about all the counties and not at that national level, but other county level. So we would like to welcome all of you to Makueni County. Please register at the Council of Governors website and secure yourself a pass to come to Makueni. You can be able to showcase what you have in Makueni, and we'll be happy to learn from each other. So some of the things that will also be showcasing is our efforts in form of mitigation, because we as the Southeastern Kenya Economic Bloc, we dedicated ourselves to plant 2 million trees. In Makueni, we are already almost hitting that 2 million alone, and this will be launched by the president, and we are also establishing an arboretum in Makueni County. And so we would like to welcome all of you to just come plant a tree in Makueni. If you can be able to donate some trees, we would be very, very happy. And this will go a long way. So every county is welcome to plant a tree in marking this year's Devolution Conference. Karibuni sana.
Thank you very much, Madam Mary. I'll post the link for registration shortly in the chat box. And once again, I want to sincerely thank all the panelists for this session, as well as the participants of this conference for the very active engagement. Thank you, and back to you, Laura.
Thanks a lot, Ken. Thank you for moderating that session. So in terms of questions, I think maybe the presenters can be answering some of the questions that have come up in the chat due to time, but I'd just like to summarize some of the key points that are coming out from each session and the action points. So we had, at first we had the first session on the faith-based, the role of faith communities. And I think from that, some of the key things that came out was the fact that now these faith communities are a platform or an avenue to catalyze the mindset shift and the change in attitudes that we've been talking about with regards to restoration, like sensitizing people. Then something also that came out clearly about during that session is that now these faith communities already have structures in them, be it the Sunday schools, the youth groups, and various other groups in which they can promote the message of landscape restoration and environmental stewardship in general. Then something else, the thing was now the whole point of communicating, we need to empower the faith community to be in a position to communicate to their members. We need to show them that this is probably the strategy, these are the structures that can be used, empower them with the technical capacity, and this is something that development partners, researchers need to invest in. Then something that is in line with that is that now these faith communities are partners. They should be viewed as partners, given their influence and the potential for them to contribute to the landscape restoration movement. They need to be considered as partners, not really as just included as a by the way, but partners. And we need to find an effective way of communicating this message to them. So the other thing was that we were given the example of how the Pope wrote the letter and the influence that it's having, just as an example of what needs to be done. So moving forward, there's that need for capacity building of the leaders of the faith communities and investment in that, so that we can show them how they can invest in landscape restoration, how they can promote it within their communities. We need for it to be inclusive. We also need to have them we also need to give them the space to integrate their own approaches. We can't be now imposing the scientific approaches, because they can use their own approaches based on their teachings in regards to this. So I think the big question moving forward is now who or which entity is going to be in charge of this, because the faith communities also have their priorities. Landscape restoration is one of them, could be one of them, but they have something. So we need like an avenue, an entity in the middle of that. And from the grassroots session, we saw that, there are different models. There's a lot that's being done on the ground, like in terms of what is needed to support such kind of movements on the ground. What came out clearly was different models of mobilization and need to be put in place.
Some of the key elements coming out of the grassroots session linked to making sure that we are really focusing on the grassroots, that we're supporting the community to not only develop but also implement projects, that we also look at the different models on how to empower the community, how to make information accessible. And I think the land care model provided an example, as did the CFA and the Wildlife of Kenya. There are many different models in which ways we can support the community and link the community to other levels and to other support networks. So I think we need to learn from these models, and we need to make sure that they're really strongly embedded in what we do. And I think we also had a lot of great comments in the chat around making sure that we're addressing information in a way that is accessible to the community and keeping them in our forefront as we move forward. So I would like to actually ask, Ken, if you just want to summarize what you felt were really critical things coming out of the county session and what you would recommend that we bring forward on Friday to the closing session from the counties on the action points going forward. And maybe it involves the environmental committees of the counties, the agricultural committees of the counties, the devolution conference, and what else needs to be done to support. We heard a lot about budget, we heard a lot about technology, we heard a lot about sharing. Ken, could you just do a quick summary?
Thank you very much, Mieke, for this opportunity once again. I think what came out from the presentations from the community, one is the issue of involvement of the grassroots communities in both in planning as well as in identification of specific landscapes that will require restoration, but as well in the process of restoring such landscape. And this could come in many shapes. This could be the capacity building, the demonstration centers, as well as in supporting local tree nursery initiatives and reseeding maybe processes for rangelands. And I'm happy that there was a discussion on the chat box about not really limiting restoration to tree growing. But from the county, I think it came out the full involvement of both the agricultural land, the range land, as in terms of, and the tree planting. I think they all complement the need for that complementarity. Then the other aspect is on the CIDP mainstreaming. Counties have just undertaken, and some are in the process of doing midterm review of the CIDPs. And this is an opportunity to beef up the issues of restoration, which could have been missed in the initial CIDPs, the 2018-2022. So even before we think about the next cycle of CIDPs, how can we entrench or mainstream issues of restoration in the midterm review of the CIDPs and in the annual reviews? Then the aspect, another issue that I'd like to pick out is particularly development of a strategy for restoration. I'm happy about the case of Marsabit, where they already have a specific strategy for, mainstreaming issues of landscape restoration. That is a good lesson that I think maybe other counties can learn from. And then the locally led action. I think that is very crucial. How do we engage the local communities? So locally led action. Then I also picked the engagement of all stakeholders, private sector, civil society, faith-based organization, the community-based organization. How do we make it an all-inclusive process? And finally, the issue of the supportive legislative frameworks. How do we not only develop, but implement the various policies, the acts that the county governments have developed that will support restoration initiatives? So in a brief, those are some of the key issues, but really not forgetting the aspect of building alternatives, diversification for local communities. If we don't build alternatives or give them alternatives, then we'll still have the degradation issues coming up. So it really requires for how do we create alternatives? And I think it came very clearly from Migori County, how they are trying to address the issue of the huge consumption of tree cutting to support curing by diversifying to potato manufacturing and so forth, value addition in the the potato value chain. Thank you, and back to you, Mieke.
Thank you, Ken. Yes, back to you, Laura. We just gave a quick summary of the grassroots as well as the county sessions. Anything you think that we missed, please add, and then you can move to close.
Thanks a lot, Mika and Ken. I think you've actually captured some of the key points that I was also going to mention. At this point, I'd just like to thank first of all the presenters. You had really, really amazing presentations, and it's quite amazing to see that a lot is actually happening on the ground. And one aspect that came out clearly is the need to, I think Pauline has talked about it. I don't know if you had mentioned it, capacity building and training is key to having such kind of upscaling, for the sustainability, number one, for the sustainability of these actions on the ground, and even to start them, because a lot of people want to engage in them, but like some of the presentations, like what one of the presenters from the county session mentioned, the lack of technical resources, the lack of technical know-how. So capacity building is key to start, to sustain, and also to upscale. And I think something else from that came up, that it feeds into that whole aspect of landscape level restoration, because if we don't have this capacity, if we don't upscale these activities, we will not feel the impact at landscape level, which is very, very important. So thank you to all our speakers, and thank you to all our moderators for the various sessions. And lastly, thank you to all the participants who have been actively participating. We do apologize we didn't have enough time for more questions and the interactive question and answer segment. But thank you all, and thank you for participating through the chat. The chat has been really amazing, and we've taken note of the comments that you've made. So thank you, and have a great day.